you have all these gifts, you turn that aggressive behavior into boldness. That hot temper you got, you can get through to that really tough guy. Take that and you flip that anger. You flip whatever it is that the enemy said you are.
You're listening to Find the Good News, episode 69, The Surrender, featuring Beth Fields Bunch of Almost Home Ministries. Find the Good News is produced by Parker Brand Creative Services, a branding agency that thinks sideways, pushes forward, and gets your brand up. See what else we do at parkerbrandup.com. Thank you for choosing to listen to another episode of Find the Good News. In this episode, I'm sharing my visit with Beth Fields Bunch, the founder of Almost Home Ministries, a Christ-oriented recovery ministry in Sulphur, Louisiana. Beth shares the origins of her ministry, many of the harsh realities those in recovery face, and the triumphs Almost Home continues to have in helping people rebuild their lives from the ground floor. The next episode of Find the Good News features Shaquila Solomon. Shaquila is a Southwest Louisiana educator that has been teaching in Nigeria. During her holiday visit, she took time to stop by the Good News studio. Our conversation was dynamic, and I think you'll gain a lot from her experiences. On February 6th, 2019, Southwest Louisiana lost a beloved human being. He was a talented musician, brother, and friend, but to many, he was an everyday saint in their lives. I'm talking about Brian Moore. 2 days before Christmas 2019, several of Brian's dearest friends spent an evening with me sharing their loving memories of Brian. This February 11th, a day declared by Lake Charles Mayor Nick Hunter as Brian Moore Day, I'll be airing that very special tribute episode. That's all of the announcements I have for this episode. Let's put ourselves in the right headspace to think about others. Put our own worries and troubles aside for just a little while. Roll up the blinds so a little love and compassion can shine in. And press play on a little good news. Finding out that there are even more good people doing good works in your hometown is always exciting to me. A year ago, I would have never believed that people would just come up to me when I'm out and about and hand me a slip of paper with a lead on someone doing excellent service in the community I grew up in, but that's my new reality. Still, as often as it happens, I can't get used to the light that rises in me, that warm feeling that drives away sneaky thoughts of gloom and doom and replaces them with something that's sorely missing in this world. That rising light is hope. That's what I discovered once again when Beth Fields Bunch agreed to come and visit me on Find the Good News. Beth runs Almost Home Ministries, a Christian recovery ministry in Sulphur, Louisiana that helps individuals rebuild their lives while overcoming the heavy burdens and sorrows caused by substance abuse and subsequent addictions. Beth and those in her ministry meet people in their hopelessness and brokenness, offering them a ladder out of the deep hole of despair they've often climbed. Almost Home Ministries provides loving structure and guidance, helping those that many have written off as lost causes. Christian discipleship pays off for Beth and those in her ministry. They take the call to love and serve the lost sincerely. Where others may see a burden, Almost Home Ministries sees a fellow child of God. Many aren't able to look past the stigma and the shame of past mistakes. But Beth believes in transformation, using the genuine pains and troubles of the past as gifts to reach others that may be on the same sorrowful road. She understands this because her feet trod that same road, and she found a better way. For Beth, the path to rebuilding and healing presents itself when, in our brokenness, we surrender to something greater than ourselves. It is this something greater that changed her life and gave birth to Almost Home Ministries. For individuals shattered by substance abuse and addiction, it is this something greater that continues to hem frayed edges, knitting and reforming their lives, healing broken families. It is this something greater that offers them the rising light of hope.
Wake up, it's morning. You're dreaming up a story. I can hear the way it's going, 'cause you're laughing in your sleep on the path to your deliverance, and a holy wall of light pouring through your window.
Old news, bad news, fake news, Sometimes you just want to shut it all down and get no news at all. With Find the Good News, I aim to change that by focusing on good people doing good work. I visit with artists, educators, civic and spiritual leaders, musicians, business owners, students, volunteers, and everyday citizens who are using their creativity, resources, and talents to bring hope and happiness to their corner of the world. In each episode, I dig into the hearts and minds of my extraordinary guests. We have street-level conversations about relatable things going on in their lives. Discover the critical life experiences that shape them, the perspectives that drive them, and the fundamental beliefs that are anchoring them to a path of goodness. There's a lot of news in the world. My name is Oran Parker, and I'm going to find the good.
And I love you just as well.
For the audience, would you mind taking a minute and telling them who you are and a little bit about your program, and we can just dive off a cliff from there?
Okay, sounds good. My name is Beth Bunch, and I have Almost Home Discipleship Ministries here in Sulphur, Louisiana, and we are a residential discipleship program for men and women.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we have, right now we have 5 beds for women and 12 for men.
Okay.
And our men are housed at our church, is the Open Door Biker Church.
Oh, okay. I
And-
didn't realize that.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Pastor Jay Lawson is my pastor.
Okay.
Yeah, I did my discipleship through Sean Barron, who is with The Gathering and has Freedom Ministries.
Yeah.
We did 2.5-year discipleship program with him, my husband and I. And then about 3 years ago, we started our residential program.
Okay. So I didn't realize that. I thought it was just women. I didn't realize it was men and women.
I mostly work the women's program.
Okay.
And our pastor is over the men's program. I teach the men and the women.
Okay.
At a community center that we'll talk about maybe after a while.
Yeah.
And I house the women, he houses the men.
Okay. So this is always one of the first things I ask people is why do something instead of nothing, right? Because, there's a lot of pains and aches and ailments in the world, and there's many of us get those pings to do something. I mean, or your heart quivers and you say, I see this need. Someone should do something about that. That's what a lot of us say, right? But then there's those people in the world who go to the next step and they go, oh, that someone is me. And so I'm just curious about that with you. Why do something instead of nothing? Where does your story start with this?
Well, 5 years ago, my husband and I's lives were radically changed when we surrendered. We were in active addiction and alcoholism. And my husband had conquered drugs about 5 years before I met him. And so we, 5 years, so we spent better part of 10 years or so together, drinking and doing what people do in Louisiana.
Sure.
And we woke up. Actually, this is a really fun season for us in the holiday season because we got sober on January 1st. It will be 5 years for us.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it a part of a New Year's commitment?
No, I had been feeling a tug for a better part of the year. He had not. I didn't grow up a lot in church. I did a little bit of church. My husband did grow up in church. And we... over that year, I had just kind of started feeling a pull that I had never really felt before. I didn't know what was going on.
What do you mean by that? Can we pause? I'd like to hear more about that pull.
Well, I literally just the summer before I quit drinking, I just felt this. I wanted to listen to Christian music, and I felt like I wanted to start going to church and doing some different things. And
interesting.
It just kind of, I like to say I had this big thing happen and all this, but it didn't. It just started,
like
kind of came over me.
Yeah.
And I went to see my brother in Texas and to tell him all about it, and because he was the Christian of our life at that point. And I went up there to talk to him about it, and we got real busy and didn't get a chance to talk to him. So I left kind of upset and came home, and I started trying to tell my family and my friends, and we were not that kind of family. We lived on the river. We were kind of had a party house. We were that kind of people. And so nobody really received all that. They were kind of like, Mom's freaking out. What is she doing?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, we don't do that. That's not what we do.
Yeah.
And my husband actually told me, he said, I'm not doing all that. I'm not doing that. I grew up that way. I
don't want that.
And I'm not doing it. I'm not going to be married to someone doing that either. So I'm thinking.
So now there's a division, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking, okay, if I do this, what's going to happen?
You're breaking apart.
Yeah. So I kind of went back and forth a little bit on it, and I remember telling one of my sons one time, we were driving home, and I said, I really want to change. I mean, I was looking around, and our family and my children and my sisters were all in addiction, a lot of them in drug addiction.
Yeah.
And going in and out of jail and prison and just a lot of things, and I had my grandchildren by that time, and I said, I want something different, but I didn't really know what to do or how to do it.
And you're not connected to a church at this point, right?
No, far from it.
So you're just having this, something's tugging on you.
Yeah.
You're feeling like this chrysalis happened, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
It just kept growing, and I didn't know what to do with it. And I didn't really have anybody in my life except my brother that was an active Christian. I mean, my mother-in-law, I have aunts and uncles that were.
And of course, you reached out to your brother, and that conversation didn't happen.
Right.
Okay.
I thought it would, yeah. And so I had a lot of people plant seeds over the years, aunts and uncles and things, but I didn't really want to receive any of that. I had a little bit of a Jesus experience in my teenage years and early 30s, but nothing really substantial. So it just kept going on. My husband said, no, not doing all that. I said, okay. And so I kind of hit and missed it for a little while, and I kind of stopped going to the bars, and I'd go a few days without drinking, but we were pretty active in what we did, and that was planning Friday before on Monday kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and so New Year's Eve, we went out 5 years ago, New Year's Eve, and did what we do, and everybody went back to our house to finish out the evening, and I woke up January 1st, and I looked around my house, and everybody was kind of passed out, and people were here and there, and whatever, and I'd had to bring my grandkids somewhere so we could do what we did, because we were pretty good about protecting them from our lifestyle.
So they weren't exposed.
No, we didn't really do that. I mean, we always kind of were pretty good about that. But we worked, and I tell you, we were really high functioning alcoholics. We always took care of people. So what we do now is really what we did then. We just did it more for us than God.
Mm-hmm.
We were always taking people in and helping people and doing a lot of things for people, but we just did it on our strength and not on God's strength. And so I woke up, I looked around, I said, that's it, I'm done.
That was it.
And I went in my bedroom, and my husband was sleeping, and I said, I'm done. I have to be done. This has got to be it. And he rolled over, he looked at me, he said, okay, me too.
Really?
I said, what? He said, okay, let's do it. That was it. It was just, it was over.
So you made a decision?
It was over.
And so what's your next step after you make the decision?
We don't know. We had gone to church a few times. We had started going to the gathering. We lived in Starks. We had started going to the gathering. About like November, we had hit and missed a few times. My sister had gotten out of prison, and she needed recovery.
So you have, to jump in here, so it sounds like your family, your extended family, had some issues with substances.
Big time.
Was that passed along to y'all through your family,
yeah.
like your parents?
Yeah. Well, my mother struggled on and off most of her life. She did wind up. She was always followed God, she did wind up being sober by the time I was about a teenager.
Yeah.
But she struggled, and there's other family members, had a brother, that passed away early in 1993, not from drugs, but just from lifestyle choices. So yeah, definitely, that was just, now my husband, no, I mean, he grew up in a very God-fearing home. But he had other things happen. Chemicals really isn't. Sometimes even people struggle. It's just a lot of the disconnect.
Yeah, no,
that people
for sure.
do,
no, I get that. I mean, I actually talk about that quite a bit. That for me is seems to be the great poverty. Is like it's poverty of love and connection. Mm-hmm. that we were talking about that before we were recording. That. Yeah. There's this part of us that's and honestly our devices don't help, that disconnects us from each other, and so we don't know how to be tender and how to be loving and how to just sit and be with people just as they are in their pain and all their suffering. So yeah, I was just talking about this with my family the other day, and it wasn't necessarily alcohol or drugs, but there were violent tendencies with certain family members, and that stuff gets put in you as a kid. When you see that, it becomes normal, and then you grow up, and then you end up doing those same exact things, and you don't even want to accept that that's what it is, because you hated that.
Right.
But then It is. I mean, you can lay it right on top of each other like negatives and go, oh, this is the exact same behavior. It's just new participants.
Right.
You know, and you go back 2 or 3 generations and you find out that was what was going on there too. Those types of behaviors, they're so insidious, like they destroy a whole bloodline.
Those generational curses, for sure.
Right.
You know, and we can break those, but it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of faith and determination. And you know, my mother struggled a lot with spontaneity. You know, just really kind of spontaneous behavior. You know, and the chemicals I don't know were the worst part of it, but it was just that try and find yourself. You know, I think a lot of people in our family did that, you know, and I struggled with that. Just who am I? What am I doing? You know, and so I would always kind of cling to, I'm going to be a mom, or I'm going to be a coach, or I'm going to be this, or
an identity.
Yeah. And trying to find my identity somewhere, you know, and so all I know is I was, 44 years old and woke up and I still thought I was this neglected child, and I'm 44.
Yeah.
I'm like, get over yourself already, you know.
No, I understand.
I was just talking about that last night in class. I was like, if you're like 30 or 40 and you're still going, but my mom, well, get over yourself. At some point you had to take charge of what you're doing and find your identity, you know, and know who you are in Christ. So everybody wasn't real happy about it at first.
The change that you and your husband.
We kind of started hitting and missing around November, and like I said, I wanted to go to the recovery group. My sister really needed that, I thought, and we were fine. You know, and no, because if you've met Sean or April or Roxy or any of the ones that I went through my discipleship with, that real quickly I figured out, oh wow, okay, I got something going on, you know. And so in January when we made that decision that morning, we just really kind of dived into church. We took a lot of classes, and we got real into our recovery. My husband actually stopped working where he was and took a more of a kind of a 7 to 4 kind of job, so we could study and figure out what all this Christian stuff was going to be.
Sure.
You know, I didn't have any idea. He had some. And
sure, because he had come out of a family that had some upbringing in that. Okay.
Yeah, but he had been out of it for about 20 years, I guess.
Yeah.
And so we spent a good long time doing that, being real active and trying to learn our new walk.
Yeah.
And who we were and what we were doing. So we moved off the river, moved down here. Bought a little trailer while we were trying to decide, buy a house or what we were going to do. We just knew we needed to change our people, places, and things, which is what we all talk about, And for us, we got real unpopular when we got sober.
Well, so that thought popped in my head a few stanzas back. I wanted to ask you that, like, who did it affect the most immediately? Whenever you made this big change.
Our children, I think, because we were those parents that it was kind of okay to do things with us. Our kids were grown at the time, but they were kind of like, "What are you doing?" Like, we don't understand. But they also, God delivered them really quickly too, and they all started kind of wanting to come to church with us and doing stuff with us, like, pretty quickly. And everybody's like, wow. I said, well, we did everything else together. Why not this?
Sure.
And so they all started kind of coming to church and kind of coming in and out, and they're all sober now and going to church. One of them's on a praise and worship team. Several of them are doing different areas of ministry with us, and so we just kind of moved away from we moved down here, and where my husband's from, Sulphur, and kind of just let's start over.
Yeah.
We had a great support system at our church, great recovery program, and we really enjoyed that for a good long time. And then so we had bought our trailer, and then we bought another little trailer in front of us to house our son and his children.
Okay.
Because he was getting sober and doing his thing and being a single dad and some things.
So, and you're trying to spread the wing around. Right? I mean, that's good though.
Yeah.
I mean, I have conversations like this with different folks, and I mean, everybody's of a different mind about it, because there's that fence of that fine line between helping somebody recover and then enabling, right? Mm-hmm. And I think everybody who's ever been in that situation has danced with it. I mean, we've danced with it. And you do, I mean, I know I remember going, oh gosh, am I enabling or am I helping? Mm-hmm. Or am I, it's such murky territory.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's a big deal. I have always leaned on the side of trying to reach my wing around, and not shut the door. because I always had that fear, which probably a lot of people do with children especially, that if I shut the door, then I'm sending them out into darkness, and there's no opportunity and no one's going to be able to love them like me. So there again, you start to tiptoe into that territory where somebody can go, well, you got to be careful because then you're enabling, right?
Right.
Did you ever go through thoughts like that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah?
I mean, I'm a kind of an extremist. Most of everybody in our family is. My boys are, for sure. And so we don't do a little bit of anything,
Right.
And,
I understand that. Yeah.
I tease my husband. I said, that's why I married him, last name Bunch, because there's a bunch of us and there's a lot going on here.
That's good. Yeah.
So we're kind of an extremist. So, I do something, I just dive all in, and, so I'm at church, and the kids are showing up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the best worship song. Hands in the air, ready, let's do it.
Yeah, you were all in. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and look at that one. If you need to pray, she's really good at this. And my kids are like, oh my God, Mom, stop. And so I'm trying to decide, how do I guide them this way now without enabling them and without. I want them to have their own walk, because that was the first thing my husband's struggle was. His mother is an amazing woman of God, and we're pretty sure she might have helped build Houston River Baptist Church. She's been there so long. And so that was awesome.
Wait,
Judy Bunch.
I know her.
Yeah,
I used to go there when I was a kid. Yeah, Judy. But that's your mom?
That's my mother-in-law.
That's your mother-in-law. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Wow. I actually, that's funny because don't forget where you're at.
Okay.
But I was telling my wife, I said, I used to go to, she'd never heard the name Bunch, I think, before. And I said, yeah. I said, when I went to Houston River Baptist Church as a child, I said, there was a bunches out there. And I remember Judy, and I didn't know if there was any connection, but that's
Absolutely.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, she was probably one of the few lights that I saw as I was going through my marriage with her son.
Wow.
Before we followed Christ.
What's your husband's name?
Marlon.
Okay.
And Darla Kay is his sister.
Oh my gosh. I know that. I know Darla. I do. I remember that. That is so wild. What a small world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
And so, Judy was definitely, had to love us through some, and Mr. Kyle, her husband, had to definitely love us through a few interesting moments before we found Jesus.
Sure.
And sometimes I tell her, I can only imagine what she thought first time she saw me, but she was always sweet and loving to us and didn't ever really make us feel bad, which was awesome.
Yeah.
And so she's real super excited for that now. And his father got to see him serving God before he passed, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Also, and so I was trying to figure out how to do that with the kids and not, but let them have their own walk. know, and one of the things my mentor told me, she said, you got to let them have their own walk. They've got to have their own way of doing things. I mean, just being there to guide them, and out in the world, I was pretty controlling and pretty hardcore about things that I did in my family, and that was another area of surrender I had to do, and so when we started trying to help him with, he had his little trailer, and we were trying to help with the kids, but him lean on God and not us and start making those decisions, it was tough, for sure. And so we did that for a couple of years. We just served at church, and about I think it'd be 3 years ago, about February or March, we started filling a pool to go over to the biker church, and I started going over there in the evenings when we didn't have something at church, and helping and being around everybody. And I kind of come from a lot of that, just being not stable, I guess, like moving around a lot and
get home, a wandering, like not. I know what you mean.
As a child, we moved a lot, and so there wasn't a lot of stability that way, and so I just kind of identify with a lot of the people that were coming around there, and so we felt like that's what we needed to do, and I had just started going and helping with at SC3, which is Paula Taylor and Sulphur Christian Community Coalition.
Okay.
And they had just moved to their new building, and we were over there, and at the time I didn't have any residential. I just kind of had women that I was kind of hanging out with and helping during the week. And she was like, what are you doing with all these ladies? I was like, I don't know. I just kind of take them with me everywhere I go because I'm trying to keep them sober until Friday and get back to church. Yeah. And so she will bring them here. What are we going to do? I don't know. So we started trying to figure out what we were going to do with them over there, because her program was a lot of children at that time. They had done a lot of children programs and stuff. And so we went there with them, and we started trying to figure out what to do, and Hurricane Harvey hit. And we were a shelter for a little while at the community center, and we did some food distribution and different things. And I had a young lady that was in a sober house up in Monroe, and she was politely asked to leave there. And so my husband and I took off to go get her. And on the way back, but my son's trailer had just become available. He had a little issue, and he had moved back in with us, so we were renting his trailer out. And right before Hurricane Harvey hit, the young lady we were renting it to and her family, they decided to move, so it became empty. So are we going to rent it? What are we going to do with it? We didn't know. And one of my ladies needed a place to stay. She's up in Monroe. She got asked to leave the sober house, and I said, well, why don't we just bring her down here, put her in there, get her a roommate, and do it that way. And so my husband's like, okay. And so we're in the middle of the hurricane doing all that stuff at this community center, and I was doing the intake for people that were coming through to help them coming in from Texas and different things, trying to figure out what we're going to do with everybody that was evacuated and stuff. So I was doing that intake, and I got a phone call that somebody had heard what we were doing, and she needed somewhere to stay. And it really just kind of hit me. I said, people need places to stay, and we have somewhere for them to stay. So I went to my husband. I said, women's house? And he was like, what?
That's where the spark starts, right?
He said, what do you mean? I said, I don't know. I think we're supposed to do this. We have a place, it's reasonable. I think we can do this. And so he said, okay. And I had a few ladies and put them in there and tried to start figuring it out. And God really just gave me guidelines and this little packet that I've showed you. And I've called a few people that I knew were doing that up in Monroe, and kind of ran some things by them, and they were like, yeah, that's pretty much all it is, man. Just put them in there and love them through it. I was like, okay. So it just kind of happened. We didn't have this big plan or anything like that. We just knew that we had it and they needed it, and we're going to do this. And now, mind you, we're still trying to figure us out, because at this point we're only about 3 years sober.
Yeah, because you're saying this all started like 5 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it was everything has been pretty radical, Yeah. But my husband's really awesome at saying yes. When he said yes that morning, that was it for him. He doesn't question God. And there really wasn't any time of him going like, well, what do we do? Because I think really the seeds that were in him all of those years, that faith that he's had, that he kind of put on the back burner, it just reignited, and that combined with my passion of just, I like to get things done, and his faith it's a pretty good combination, and so he just believes, and I just kind of barrel through, and he kind of guides me here and there,
Yeah.
but like I said, the foundation of what we had though, with our discipleship was what really made us, the strength that we have, because they were so incredible to tell us, get your eyes on God, get them off of me. I'm not your answer. I'm not, they always turned us back to Scripture and our walk with Christ, and never let us think for a minute that they were doing anything for us, or that we were doing anything. If you're not doing this, if you don't have God in the center of it, and it was just really critical for us, and it was an amazing foundation.
Well, sure. I mean, I can, anybody who's had a hard life or who is stuck in any of these kinds of troubles, whatever they may be, after a while, that becomes sort of your identity, right? I mean, all of these things that are plugged into you, whether it might be overeating, it might be compulsive shopping, it might be just not being kind, it might be just snapping at everyone with anger, or it could be drugs or alcohol or whatever. But you do that for decades, and that becomes the whole identity. That's just the shell, of the person. And when you bring it back to the center around the Creator, and you start to strip all those things away, then that self starts to fall away. This person, this thing that's in the mirror isn't you at all. And all that stuff starts to fall away, and then your whole identity then becomes more in alignment with your Creator, right?
Exactly.
I mean, and then all of a sudden these new things start to blossom out.
Yeah.
And then like what it sounds like is then you're able to serve, like you said that earlier. you saw the need and then you just went to it.
Well, we did all these things out in the world. That's kind of who we were. But, when we flip that and use it for God, you can't imagine how quick he can grow something when you get out of the way. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, I take it very seriously that, we're not even 5 years in yet. And really, 5 years in, I met God when I got sober. So this is all new to me. I had some foundation as a child, for sure, but I didn't listen to any of that, and I didn't follow any of that. I didn't raise my kids in it, and so this is all new, and I've had some amazing people that have come to help me understand this and let me grow up, but ultimately I had to choose, how am I going to do this and stay surrendered constantly, because that's not who I was at all. Listening and being obedient, I don't even think I could spell those words. It's just, that's just not who I was. And so having people that would just really push you and show you and guide you and hold you accountable, for sure. And really, like the program that we went through, that's still Freedom Ministries, incredible, because it's not just, hey, how you doing today? It's, hey, how you doing, and did you get this done? Did you read that? Did you study this? I gave you this. Did you and so that really kind of rolled over when we moved over to the biker church. We had taken a lot of classes, and I not just one thing worked, like all of it worked. So I had put it all together in a binder. Our pastor, Jay, wanted the men to have something. So I said, yeah, I can put something together for you. He said, no, I want you to do something. I'm like, what am I going to do? So I took out that binder that I had for all those classes that I had taken, and I started sitting down and I wrote 8 lessons based on all of those different classes that we had taken, and to help teach the guys. And that's what all it was going to be, was just kind of teaching the guys a little bit. And that has turned into Monday nights. Now we have several different classes that meet. We use that for the men and women of the program. Community people can come to it, and we call it community recovery, where it's not about chemicals. It's a discipleship, where they learn to pray out loud, speak out their victories, how to study the Bible, how to really hold people accountable, hold yourself accountable, find a good sponsor and mentor, just all the things that we learn. And then we also partner with all the different churches in town, and they go to Freedom Friday on Friday night. Sometimes they go up to DeQuincy and see Glenn up there in April, and also Freedom Worship Center. They have different functions they do with it. So it's the whole community. That we have a little church that meets in our community center that backs us with a pastor-led study on Monday night. So when they've come through my class and then go to Purpose Driven Life and then go on to the pastor-led study, and they have a little graduation, and it's the whole thing is really come together, But getting back to when the houses started, we did about the first year and a half was just all the women that I had been kind of working with over that time, and they all needed places to stay. It was kind of a nightmare, honestly.
Yeah, I mean,
crazy.
And it's a beginning stage.
Yeah,
right?
and we're trying to figure out what we're doing, and people were calling like, your girl's up here, come get her, kind of stuff. So
you're not only just providing a place for them to stay, you're having to do some management. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, of their
very
lives,
hands-on.
Right? Okay.
Very hands-on. And so we did that for a while, and but that first year and a half was a little bit rocky, and getting my balance together of who I was going to be in leadership and trying to grow myself and make sure that I didn't stop being teachable, which was hard. I just kept feeling propelled to do more things, but then being constantly reminded I need to step back too. And sometimes I listened, sometimes I didn't. But a lot of people are patient with me, and thankfully God's grace, just helping me. I look back at it now and I tell my girls that were with me back then, I said, y'all are really my guinea pigs, man. Like,
sure.
Come on. It was something else. But some amazing things come out of that. I was just doing the math the other day on some of the ladies and men that have come through over the last 2.5, 3 years. And there's probably about a dozen or more people that have come through this program, not just our residential, but the church, Freedom, and a lot of different places that are either in ministry. They're actively serving in their church. A lot of them are actively serving in recovery, running, helping run sober houses. And I have one young lady that's came from here and from Sulphur, and she is up there working at the rehab where she started at.
Oh, wow.
There's numerous of them. I was telling someone about it, and I was like, gosh, there's probably like 10 or 12 people. And that's pretty incredible when you think about that.
Life-changing. Completely changed lives.
And so that's the whole discipleship, is just everybody coming together to do that. All the different pastors and leaders of the area and community business people, that have come together to put their hands on these people and really be the hands and feet and walk it out with them.
Yeah.
And I'm happy, I know it. I'm helpless.
Sorry for interrupting the conversation, but I have something I need to tell you about. You may or may not know this, but this podcast is produced in the city of Sulphur, Louisiana, one of the sister cities that make up Southwest Louisiana. All of my childhood memories are wrapped up in the city of Sulphur. It's my home, and it's been a good home for most of my life. There is a growing diversity of unique businesses, services, and events in Sulphur, each with a rich and colorful story to tell about their particular place in this little jewel on the west side of the Calcasieu River. My mission is to promote good news, to put a positive signal out in the world. That's why my team at Parker Brand Creative Services has created the new brand, Sulphur Today. Here's how it works. Post your Sulphur event, service, photos, videos, or information using the hashtag Sulphur Today. That's it. My team and I will scan and curate those posts through the social media platforms we've put in place. Before you make your post, just type hashtag. That's a £sign for the folks that don't know what a hashtag is. And the words Sulphur Today with no space. My team at Parker Brand is monitoring this tag right now, and they're ready to create positive digital curb appeal for our city by sharing all the very best Sulphur has to offer through the Sulphur Today social media pages. As the Sulphur Today project grows, we will be scheduling interviews and video sessions with businesses, events, and services so they can tell their story of Sulphur Today in a series of ongoing micro-documentaries. Look for the eye-catching Sulphur Today sign when you're out and about. And be ready, we may be stopping by to visit you for a photo op. And don't forget to stop by the Parker Brand Creative Services studio in Sulphur to grab a Sulphur Today decal for your vehicle or business. We want people visiting our area to know that they can find all the wonderful things we have to offer with ease and be a part of our history by utilizing the Sulphur Today pages or by searching the Sulphur Today hashtag. Do you want to help us tell the story of Sulphur Today? Here's what I need you to do right now. Visit and like the Facebook page at facebook.com/Sulphur Today. And be sure to share positive Sulphur information and post often using the hashtag Sulphur Today. Now, back to Find the Good News.
And I love you just as well.
And that's what the community center does a lot. They have a real holistic approach of the whole thing. Like they can go up there. And so when we first started, it was a lot of the ladies just being up there doing Bible study and stuff during the day, trying to figure out what we're going to do. And through that, social services has been developed. The 10 years Paula had spent building all these foundations just grew into with social services. There's a t-shirt shop, there's a food truck, fixing to have a cafe, and all of these places. We have a learning center. All these places work with the people in the program and then the community, the parents of these children that she's been working with for years, seeing what's available to them now. Job track system, Goodwill's involved. I mean, just countless things that God just started creating when everybody just came into unity,
Yeah.
And all the, like I said, all the foundation that had been laid for years, though, and it's just coming together, and it's incredible to watch. You go to the Grove on Thursday night and once a month, and you'll see 5 or 6 churches being represented.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've been to that.
Yeah, and they just did the Christmas under the Oaks or whatever. All the different churches represented
for the Sulphur community.
Right.
Christmas. Yeah.
So it's really it's incredible to watch.
Yeah, it sounds incredible. I mean, it's a bit, and honestly, so that. I guess I have a lot of questions about the program, but I mean also about the need. So Sulphur's interesting, and so why is and I've talked to a lot of different people, and it seems like there seems to be a very extraneous need in Sulphur for these types of programs. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think some of it comes from maybe the stigma that some of the people that I've come through, of course, everybody lovingly calls it poche,
Oh,
town,
okay, right. Yeah, I know that. I know
you get that stigma or
so
whatever.
For people, some people listening to this show may not even be from here, so let's talk about that, because I grew up in Sulphur, and I mean, Poche Town was something that was said a lot. In fact, I have an example of, maybe for listeners so they understand, like, the stigma of what that means. And I mean, maybe that's not a fair thing to say, but I feel like there is a stigma.
It is, and that's just basically what people used to call the other side of the tracks.
The other side of the tracks.
And it literally is the other side of the tracks.
It is,
big track runs through Sulphur, and so we're the other side of the tracks, and that's where our church is located, and our community center. And in that area, there's a lot of single parent. There's a lot of homelessness. There's a huge homeless population here in our area that people don't even realize, and they're not just right there in Poche. They're all over.
Right.
There's little pods all over here. The transportation is a real issue. Get good jobs. We don't have a transportation system.
Right.
So, there's a lot of hindrance, and like you were talking about earlier, the generational curses, where you've got these guys and women, whatever, that their mom did it, so they did it, and it just keeps trickling down. Next thing you know, you're locked into it.
Well, it's interesting. The other morning, I was there's a young man who I'd seen walk in front of our office here a couple of times, and I noticed he was carrying like a big, almost like a comforter. And the other morning, I went. I saw him and I pulled in, and then he walked by, and I was like, no, that was just on my heart. He just was in my heart. That's how it happens sometimes. And so I went and drove and kind of caught up with him, and I said, hey, what do you need? What kind of help? And he was just like, man, I'm just living in the woods, And he started telling me his story, and I said, well, look, I handed him some money, and it was like $52 that I had in my wallet. Well, he didn't look at it. He just took it and he put it in his pocket. And I said, well, what do you need? He said, well, man, he said, I need an ID, first of all. I can't get a job. I can't do this with anything. Everything's blocked up until I get an ID. And so I said, well, let's go to the DMV, I said, you got money in your pocket now. You can get your ID. I said, and what's next, And he said, man, and when he realized he could get his ID, he started crying. And he cried and he cried, and he was like, this changes everything, just having an ID, just this. And I came back here after we visited, and I gave him some supplies out of my truck, and I told them on my team, I said, I got to hear his story, and you get to hear about some of the abuse he went through, and then it went all the way back to his father being in Vietnam, and then getting exposed to Agent Orange, and then having mental issues after that, and then it goes back to his grandfather, and I got to hear all of that. And it's exactly what you're talking about. And I said, how many? This is just one human being in this town who's had a thread of tragedy and suffering that's just run right up into their life. And look, and now he's sitting here suffering himself. And how do you get out of that?
Right. Well, the beginning of that is exactly what you're talking about. Find what is the need. So, okay, I can give you a food box once a month, but why am I giving you a food box once a month?
Exactly right.
What can we do to stop that?
Yeah.
And that's what I think Poche now is incredible at. I mean, because that's what we do at SC3 is you can come in there and you can you get into an empowerment system. It's all about empowerment over there. And so we're going to help you, but we're going to make sure you're helping yourself. Yeah. Are we really giving you that hand up? Are we meeting the need and then following through? The follow through is incredible with these ministries around here. It's not just, hey, we'll come here and we're going to pray for you and good luck with that. It's, well, who are you? Where are you at? What are you doing? What got you here?
Yeah.
And try and see what can we do to break that.
Well, even when I was a kid, we lived out on Houston River Road, so I went to LeBlanc Middle School, and I remember hearing the word Poche Town. And people would say, oh, you go to school in Poche Town. I didn't know what it meant.
Right.
But after years of hearing that, you start to make these unsaid assumptions that it's a troubled area, or it's poverty, or people are up to no good. That was just the impression. I mean, I'm being honest. That was what it was like. Yeah. And so when I got to high school, I remember this very well. Never forget it. I was in my English class, and it was the first day of school, and the teacher asked us all something, and nobody had the answer. And she said, well, I can see we're all from Poche Town in here. And my buddy and I were the only 2 kids who had went to that junior high. And we both looked at each other like, wow, like that's a horrible thing for a teacher to say, but this is a Sulphur. This was a Sulphur. And again, I'm not trying to throw her under the bus, but this was just what happened. And it's stuck that there is a stigma about that part of our town.
But guess what, though? What they do is they wear it on the outside, and people over there in we'll just say Maplewood, for example.
Yeah, right.
They wear it on the inside.
Right.
Okay. So it's happening there,
That's
too.
right. Exactly.
Okay?
Yes.
And it's happening on Country Club, and it's happening all over everywhere.
Right.
Okay.
We can put a coat of paint on it.
Yeah. They just wear it on the outside.
Right.
So the man that I work with that has tattoos on his face, okay, he's going to be looked at and go, oh my goodness, you've been in jail. Well, so has your neighbor over here.
Right.
I promise you.
Right.
Or so has this one gone through something. They wear it on the outside. And they're actually, most of the time, more willing to start trying to be teachable and humble and learn.
Sure.
We get men and women that are the what we would call just the hardcore addicts. I'm talking 20 and 30 years of addiction. Okay, these guys have been using. I had a couple of sisters last New Year's Eve. We're all talking about what we're going to do for New Year's Eve this year.
Yeah.
And people ask me all the time, taking some time off for the holidays. I'm like, man, our ministries turn up a notch in the holidays.
Right.
There's not time off in the holidays.
Right.
This is when we really got to get it, keep them busy, keep them active, and show. Some of them have seen their first sober New Year's ever.
Yeah,
And,
well, it's incredible.
Right. And so last year we had a set of sisters that saw their first New Year's Eve together sober since they were like 8.
Were they in your home, in the program?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Since they were like 8. Their other sister is one of my best friends, and their other sister is the one I opened our houses for. So it's a family that we've been working with for a long time, an incredible family. And they saw their first sober New Year's together since they were like children.
Wow.
And we get to be on the front lines watching that stuff. You know what I mean? And but you look at those people and you say, okay, well, they did it because they didn't get high, or didn't get drunk on New Year's Eve. Well, they also there's families that they haven't had a happy New Year's. It ain't nothing to do with chemicals,
right,
in a long time.
Right.
So what happens over there, especially at our church. And in all the other come as you are churches around here, Freedom Worship Center and The Rock and all the other, wonderful places that we get to bring our people to, is that, we see their outside, and sometimes it's interesting, but we want to go and want to see what's in there.
Right.
Because they've got gifts and they've got talents and they've got amazing things that are being overlooked. Right. And those simple little things like we were talking about, getting the ID and maybe just giving them a ride, somewhere.
Yeah, some people can't. They need to get to Lake Charles. They can't get over the bridge.
They can't even get over there.
Right.
And there's a lot of things coming to Sulphur now. They have discovered that we do have a bridge that goes both ways. Right. So we're getting a lot of really cool stuff over here now. Sometimes just breaking down that barrier, what they get in that cycle, and everybody knows about it. You can't get an ID because you don't have a job. You can't get a job because you don't have an ID. You can't get a car. But those things that hold them back, and some of them are because of their choices, and we have to remember that.
Sure.
And when we start getting our veteran Christians coming in that don't have an addiction background, sometimes they don't. People think they don't understand. They don't get why. Why are you homeless? What's going on? Well, because you did this, and this. Well, we try and break that down too. And that's the first thing we tell people in our program. You're judging them like they're judging you. They do get you. And I tell them, you don't need to understand their addiction. We understand their addiction. They need your Jesus. And you're going to come in here with your veteran, long-standing faith that you've stood on through all your trials.
Right.
And we have several families right now that we're working with, and they don't have addiction background, but they're some of the best ones to work with our program, because we need your Jesus. We need those people that have stood in those trials for years. And they've had trials, but they've stood on their faith to teach these people, and they love listening to that.
Well, that's what's hard sometimes, I think, is because anybody can come in really too hot on somebody, and it's for me even like I have really great conversations with my son, but I realize he's still coming to realizations and revelations and learning things. If I come in hot as a 45-year-old man in the walk that I've walked and what I've learned and what I know, and every single time he has a question, I come in with just a landslide of information, that's too much.
Yeah.
It's daunting, it's fearful, and he needs to grow. Just, you said that earlier, and have his walk.
Right.
And grow the way he's going to grow. That's the tender touch that sometimes we forget to have, because we're like, oh, you see someone and you see sort of like that little crack or that fissure, and you're like, oh, this is an opportunity, and you want to flood all that in there, and it's just not the right.
We found a lot of people that once we explain that to them, and we tell them, because they think they need to understand, like,
this.
Yeah, and I have so many beautiful women in my life now that are, I call them my little churchy friends, because they've just been in church forever, and they've never been on that side of the tracks.
Sure,
okay?
Sure.
Not because they don't want to or they don't care. It's just that's not where they grew up. Whatever.
Right.
It's okay.
Right.
And I said, I don't know. I don't understand them. That's okay. I don't need you to. I got that. I said, but guess what? I don't understand. How did you survive 40 years without drinking? I don't grasp that sometimes. And so, I have so many of those beautiful women like that in my life now. And I tell the ladies, I said, have your season of recovery. Absolutely. Have your recovery friends. You need them for sure to understand you. I said, but you need to, get out there and see this other side too. That's one of the best things one of my mentors ever did for me. I was at Freedom one night in the fellowship hall. I was at the gathering still at that time. And Friday night was it was just us on the other side, and so I got real locked into my recovery. That's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be around them. I was one of those that you don't get me. You don't understand my son's addiction. You don't understand my sister's in prison, whatever. And I really didn't want nothing to do with those other ladies, those ones that bake cookies and do all that stuff, that women's ministry. I didn't understand them. And so my mentor came, she said, come see. I said, where are we going? She brought me to the edge of the fellowship hall, and she said, look over there. I said, ain't nobody there. It's Friday night. They don't come here on Friday night. She said, there's a whole church over there, and you need to know who they are. And I was like, no, I'm good. They don't understand me. She said, until you do, you're doing that. Go to someone. I was like, oh, wow. And so I went to my first couple of women's ministry things, and I don't scare very easily, but I was so nervous, and they were so wonderful, and they were so sweet, and they thought I was cool, and I thought they were cool, and I was just like, wow. No, they don't understand my son's addiction, but guess what? They do understand a lot of other things, that are their trials that I don't understand. Their son didn't get into the college they hoped they would their whole life. That's a real thing. For my world, that wasn't, but for them, it really is. And that's just as important. And I didn't see it that way, and so it really opened my eyes to that. And a lot of them really reached out to me, and they asked me to speak at one of their events as a women's event, and I was like, wait, what? I said, I teach, addiction. And no, you have this other gift. And then, then my friend started telling me these things that I could do. And I was like, yeah, I guess I do that, do I? And she said, yeah. I was like, okay. And so that's one of the things we try and teach our people on the program is you have all these gifts, you turn that aggressive behavior into boldness. You change that hot temper you got into really helping someone. You can get through to that really tough guy that maybe I can't quite reach.
Right, exactly.
And then you got the person that's the isolator, and all they do is isolate. Well, once you can show them that, you can teach somebody maybe a little bit quicker how to be more peaceful and quiet than I can, and take that and you flip that. You flip that isolation, you flip that anger, you flip whatever it is that the enemy said you are. Because that's not who you are. God says who you are.
Yeah.
And you flip that. He doesn't make that. Yeah. He doesn't make all those things.
Transmutation. I talk about this a lot. Actually, that you're using a phrase. I tend to say judo flip, but it's like, use the momentum of the thing that is negative,
right,
but turn it around,
right,
and
you're
utilize
unstoppable.
It. Yeah, right. It's Aikido, and I know that's a martial art, but the philosophy of Aikido is the redirection of
absolutely
energy and momentum, and I do believe that it's taken me 40 plus years to finally embrace that, but say, okay, this thing is coming in and it's coming in bad, it's coming in hard, right, but how can I take that momentum and make it good? And
that's a choice.
Yeah, that's right. And you have to be conscious of that. That takes practice.
Right.
It's
it absolutely
like
does.
A discipline almost.
It absolutely does. But when you find what that is, and then you start growing that in someone and through Christ, they're unstoppable. I gotta tell people all the time, and I'm not bragging on me and my family by no means, because I know exactly where we were at 5 years ago. I know exactly who we were, and to have that much of a transformation, not just me, my husband, my son, my daughter-in-laws, I mean, that's not humanly possible. Come on. You know what I mean? Like, only God, but God, you know, because I take that seriously, you know, and it needs to be, because we have so many stories, I mean, of people that you just can't even grasp. You could go, some of the people who come through our program, you could say their name over there in Poche, and they'd be like, what? I said, no, yes, him, yes, her. Because you don't get to tell me who they are. You don't get to do that anymore, because we know who they are. They are who God says they are. Yeah. And you don't get to do that. I have right now in one of my homes, she doesn't listen to podcasts, so I can say it. I'm not going to say her name, but she would kill me. She's like, don't tell my stuff. But, you know, she was homeless for a very, very long time. I've been trying to get her for a couple of years now. No addiction issues. I don't know this, never, but since, I mean, that's not her thing. And very much an isolator, very cantankerous at times. People around town know her, you know. It's kind of a thing, you know.
Yeah.
And she's in the house now, and I finally talked to her, and I had a private room, and I said, will you please come into the house? And she's older, you know. She's had surgery coming up and things. I said, please come in and rest, you know. And she said, I ain't going to the house. I said, please. And she's like, okay. So she comes in, and she's been there about 2 months now. And the ladies are falling in love with her, and she's falling in love with them, and she's spending time with them. She gets up and does devotions with them in the morning. And you know, she can still be cantankerous at times, but she's finding a whole new way about herself. Like, she'll call me and she'll say, I don't want to, you know, tattletale anybody, but this is happening, and you know, do you want to handle it? Do you want me to handle it? And I was like, I want you to handle it. I said, you got this, man. I said, come on, you've got the most leadership skills of anybody I've ever seen if you just start using them. Come on.
Yeah.
And so she's finding at her age a whole new way of doing things, and it's working. And she recently gave up her bedroom for a young lady to get her daughter back. So we had two houses. When we first started with the house that we got in our son, and then we bought our house, the other trailer was right behind it, so we decided to turn it into the lady's house also. So we had two. So we had 12 beds at that time. And I'd put her in there privately, but then I had a young lady trying to get her daughter back. So I had to go to my friend, and I said, hey, I kind of need to move to the other house with all the other girls, because I need this for the woman and her daughter. She didn't even blink. Okay. I said, you sure? Yep.
Wow.
I was like, wow. You know, and that's just confirmation, you know, and I just couldn't believe that she was willing to do that. So she said, hey, whatever she needs to get that little girl back is what we're going to do. And there's just story after story after story like that of people coming out of what people have as a stigma over here.
Yeah.
And not just over here in Poche. I mean, people are coming in from the community.
Sure.
Also, and saying, you know, I really didn't want people to know I have this going on. But I do, or my son does, or my niece does, and I don't want people to know that, because I have been in my church for a long time. I don't really want everybody to know that. And I said, well, guess what? Get over yourself, because maybe you're that person that could go back over there to those people that don't understand and say, you know, we have something going on too.
Yeah, well, there you go. There again is that redirection of energy. Your pain and sorrow, suffering, trials, tribulations become the very thing that makes you the gift to the next person. I mean, that's the beauty of that.
Absolutely.
Granted, you don't want anybody to have to go through those types of things and carry those crosses, so to speak. But I mean, at the same time, that's changing them.
Right.
If in a program like what you're describing, and like your program, you're creating that opportunity for them to find their treasures and find their gifts, and then there you go.
Yeah.
You know, that
we have a young lady right now at the community center that's helping run the social service department, a couple of them helping run the social services department. And because they know that stuff, and they know that person, that if they could just get on their food stamps, or they can just get their Medicaid straight, or whatever, you know, and because they've done all that. So who's better to learn that position? You know what I mean? And so they come in just to kind of help it, and now they're basically running the show over there, you know, and that's really cool to watch, because when that person comes in and they're just so distraught and frustrated, they're going to have that grace, and they're going to have that understanding. And the two ladies over there that are running that are just when people come in there, they feel comfortable with them immediately. Yeah. And so those are the gifts that they already had, that they're able, being in positions like that, to be able to start using them. And the quicker you start giving back, the quicker you start growing.
Yeah, well, I love that.
Because if you're just holding in everything you have, that's just not what he's got. You start giving back. That's one of the biggest things in any of these programs you go through. Give back. Start serving. And that's what I was taught. If you're having a bad day, go serve somewhere. Go do something for someone. You're not going to be able to focus on your problem very long if you're serving someone else. Because you're going to feel that warmth that he wants you to feel, and that's what the ultimate high is, really.
You're right. I get that. I've had a similar thought when I do any kind of service act. That those are the keys to get it, because I always imagine my heart is like this multi-layered chamber with all these little doors, and the closer I can get to the center of it is where I'm going to find what you just described, that ultimate high, that elation. But to get there, it is service. That's what unlocks it, or being with people when they're in pain or in need. Another door unlocks, and then another door unlocks, and the closer you get, the warmer it gets, and the more it glows. Yeah, I get that, and you're right. And I wonder, I've heard a lot of guests on this show say that same thing, that it's through service that they have overcome their loneliness, they've overcome their addictions, they've overcome bad habits. I mean, they're drawn to other people. It's in serving other people.
Yeah, and learning the tools to do that the right way, so you are staying humble to what you're doing, and you're not getting full of yourself to think I'm doing anything.
Right.
And that's one of the best things that I think I learned through the discipleship program that I took, and we try and teach now, is there's right ways and wrong ways, and I joke about one of my mentors, she used to really put me in check, and when I was given her, I thought, she can't handle me. I was a little bit of a mess,
Yeah.
And she can't handle me. And boy, could she handle me. She still can't handle me, and she'll tell me real quick, you need to be quiet. You need to slow down. You need to, stop talking so much, or whatever, you know what I mean? And so that's one of the things we teach them is, take that passion and use it. But, like you were saying earlier, just running full speed at somebody sometimes doesn't work.
Right.
So just because you have something to say doesn't mean that you need to be the one saying it.
That's right. That's exactly right,
and
man. You're right.
If you're that person
back.
that says every time, and I was her, so I know that I got told to be quiet a lot, and she pinched me, but we'll get into that later. But she knows she did. But I had an answer for a lot of things. Got a lot of stuff to say. I like to talk. I have a passion. I like to share a lot, especially now, because I'm like, oh, but God did all these, and so I don't need to answer every question. And as soon as you do that, you're not being teachable, and you are thinking that you know more. And if you're quiet for just, she say, nope, wait a little bit longer, and I'm like, but I go, ugh.
Yeah.
She said, nope, wait, and sure enough, somebody would have something that they you may have just stopped that person that finally was ready to talk, because you think you got so much to say.
Yeah. It's true.
And so we teach them that. We teach them how to share appropriately, and how to make sure they're glorifying God and not their past. That's really important. All those war stories, that's just not where it's at. And we teach them to hold each other accountable to that. To say, if you're hearing your buddy constantly glorifying himself, go say, hey, where was God in that? What scripture are you using to back that up?
Yeah.
And all those.
Well,
kind of
the
things.
Ego is insidious. I mean, it'll sneak in. It gets you a little bit of that. Get a little bit of that good old fashioned pride. I mean, we want to feel good, right? I mean, and so it's not. I don't think it's a bad thing to feel good, but the ego will use that. And I don't know, I'm kind of demonizing the ego, but I mean, just for the sake of the conversation, I've seen that happen in myself and other people, where the ego comes in and takes that little bit of good that you're feeling about what you did, and then all of a sudden it's like patting you on the back, and then before long, you just what you said, you're in a gilded cage of your own making, where you're like, oh, I'm doing this. You're not really maybe, you're not like sitting there having that thought maybe, like clearly, like I am doing this very clearly, but the ego's still stroking you.
Yeah, and especially when God starts to exalt you and put you into positions, it can be real, if you don't have good accountability in place, it can be real easy to go, being out front, when you're out, and I'm using the word you, when your identity is out front, your name, your face, your person, and then someone's life is changing, which is a good thing, and love fills the air, and you feel that love, that's good. But the ego can take that and just go, oh, I, me, you, Oran, you know, and then, oh man, it just starts looking at itself, you know, and then before long. Yeah, for sure. And that's one of the, I tell people all the time, I say, thank you for that. Pastor Larry LaFleur is one of my spiritual mentors, an incredible man of God. And when I first started getting to know him, people would say, oh, good job, whatever. I'm like, oh, but God. And he said, will you knock that off? I'm like, what? I was supposed to be giving God glory. He said, yes, absolutely. But, come on, you're doing some good stuff. And I'm like, but you don't understand. I struggled with pride so much and ego so much when I was out in the world. I don't ever want anyone to think, especially my Savior, that I think I'm doing anything. He said, yeah, but you have worked hard and you have done these things. And so balance that and understand that and then teach that. And I'm like, okay. So we try and, we try and do that, and let them know. But I tell them, I say, you might see my face, you might hear my voice, I might be the one invited to the podcast or whatever, but I have this huge team behind me of people that I can't do this without my husband, my daughter-in-laws, my sons, the ladies at SC3, all these pastors and leaders, and that when you see those people out front doing the pastors or whoever, all these people that are coming alongside, they don't necessarily want to do this, but they help us stay accountable, but then you have to listen. Like you were saying earlier, that's a choice. You have to listen. If you say, hey, hold me accountable to this, and they do say, don't tell me that.
Well, when you think about like an old passenger train, like the old, from a long time ago, the old steam-driven or coal-driven trains, you had that engine up front. But when you think of the train is all those cars. I mean, you can say, oh, a train, and you think of just the engine, but it's not. I mean, you got the food car and the luxury car, somebody's washing the clothes, somebody's shoveling the coal. There's all these cars, and when you say train, it's one entity, but it's made up of all these parts, and
I like that.
So often, all we're interested in is the engine, right? It's the thing that's got the horn and the smoke, and it's it's going down the track. But
that engine's kind of tired sometimes, though.
Right. But it's the one out front.
That's right.
And that's the thing that we all see first. It's got the big light on the front, and
right.
It's where the most pizzazz is. But for all those passengers that have to ride that train, they need every one of those cars. And so it is easy though to fall into that. I can see that for sure. I mean, even like doing a show like this, I mean, there's that danger of it's funny because when I started the show, I didn't want to be out front. I was like, well, I'll do a show, but I won't be out front. I'll just have the conversation. And the more I meditated, I was, this is not possible. It's not possible to have a show that you're in week after week and you not be out front, because I don't like being out front. So it's like a necessary evil. And I'm sure you experience the same thing where you're going, well, I have to be out front. I have to be a voice. I have to do these things because somebody's got to be that engine in the front. Right. But I do need to remember to.
Right. Well, and I tell people, God left me in the world for a long time for a big reason, and I know that.
Yeah.
And I take that seriously. And it's my choice to say, I've always been that outspoken person, and I've always had a lot of opinion. How am I going to use that now?
Yeah.
And use that effectively. And then teach others how to give that back. The best thing I like to do is be able to step back and watch someone else come forward and what they've learned and what they've done. And it's like, wow.
Yeah.
That's when you see somebody move ahead of where you're at, that's the goal, man.
Yeah.
Is watching them be able to feel a confidence that the first time they've prayed with someone, or the first time they've led that group, or whatever, it's really a neat thing to watch. when they realize that light goes on.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, wow, it's you've had it in you this whole time.
Yeah.
And all we did was to help develop it, And so one of the things we really want people to understand about this program is, and I'm going to make T-shirts, and it's going to fund the whole ministry that says, we are not a shelter or a sober living house. We're a discipleship program.
Yeah.
Because that is the biggest thing we want people to understand, is that when you come into this, whether it's into our residential program or at the church or even at Freedom or wherever, is that we're a discipleship program. And so our first, we hopefully, if we need to, we'll house you. If we need to, we'll feed you, we'll clothe you, we'll do the things that we've been blessed to be able to do. But the biggest thing is making sure you're getting discipled and making sure that you're growing in your walk with Christ. That is a requirement. So you're not just going to come here and eat and sleep and shower. It's just not going to happen. You're going to.
That's not the program.
You get me,
that's not that program.
Right. You get me, you get him.
And I'm happy, I know it. I'm helpless.
I hate to pause the program, but I want to ask you something. Did you know that you can help me and my team at Parker Brand Creative Services grow the Find the Good News signal? For less than a fancy cup of coffee, you can become an Early Risers Club patron on our Patreon page. What's Patreon? Well, it's a way for creators to fund their projects by pooling support from those really passionate people that believe in what they're doing. Do you believe in what we're doing with Find the Good News? I hope you do. We believe that there's already enough negative news in the world, even right here at home, and that good people doing good works deserve a platform to speak from too. That's why we created Find the Good News, and we believe in that simple mission. Maybe you believe in it too. If you do believe in finding and sharing good news, then head over to our Patreon page right now or check out the link in the show description. For a commitment of $3.33 a month, you can join the Early Risers Club of Find the Good News Patreon supporters and get access to the B-Sides, a patrons-only podcast with the crew behind Find the Good News, Parker Brand Creative Services. Each time we level up, the Patreon rewards will get bigger. If you're tired of old news, bad news, and fake news, help support Find the Good News at patreon.com/findthegoodnews. That's patreon.com/findthegoodnews. Now, back to the episode.
I love you just as well.
That's real important. People understand that, and we do. It's not people don't just come in with addiction, and even whether it's residential or not. It's not just addiction. There's a lot of other areas that that we work with them on, and but understanding that is very important to everyone that's involved in this ministry, in these churches, in the community here in Sulphur. Even our mayor, our police department. I mean, the city officials. They're all so supportive. I mean, they're at just about every meeting we're at. You can look around and see a city official. It is incredible to watch what Sulphur's capable of doing, and I've just been doing it for a few years with them, and I know it's been going on for a long time. But they're so supportive of everything we do, and they're right there back in everything that we do. And you're saying earlier, why are we getting that stigma? I think that really there's a lot of people that don't think that about the Poche town, they just don't know different. But once they see it, they stop by the church all the time, and they're just like, y'all are doing such great work, and people really do love what's going on. They just don't know how to get involved and what to do. It's one of the first questions we're always asked, how can I help you? I said, well, we have a whole little thing that we go through with them. There's all kind of areas to help, prayer being the biggest one. But if you're not be the one that wants to lead a class, drop off some toilet paper, or get the news out there, get us in front of people for us to talk to them, just like what we're doing now.
Yeah.
I know. I said, if you don't know what to do, get me in front of somebody. I promise you, we got plenty to say.
Yeah.
Get me or Sean or Jay or Clay or any of them, Paul, anybody in front of somebody. We got stuff to say.
Yeah. Well, the need is manifold. I mean, it's everywhere and in every kind of capacity.
Yeah. Yeah, and the churches are just incredible, and even extending out into Lake Charles, we have quite a few churches that are really deeply partnered with us that help us do things and get the word out, and we try and get them around to all the different places. So while they're in this program, so they know, because we know they're going to leave us eventually. They're going to go back to something, and we want them to know what those churches are about. So we take them to all. So knowing what the functions are, knowing who the leaders are, knowing who's got what Bible study on what night. There's literally something every night of the week they can go to.
Yeah.
And we get them to as many things as we can. So when they do leave us, they'll say, well, I don't know where I'm going to go, but I went to that Methodist church for something and they were incredible. Or I went to Preparing the Way for something, they were incredible. Over in Moss Bluff. I mean, it's out there. You said that's find the good news. It's out there.
Yeah, right.
You just you need to just be informed.
Yeah, right. Right.
And that's a good place to start, is over there at SC3 for sure. Go to Biker Church, or go check out the Grove when we have some things going on there. There's everybody's got social media now. We all share amongst each other and knowing what's happening with each other. So
what's the number one way that people are finding out about you? I mean, like if someone needs to get into, if they are dealing with addiction, or they need to get into recovery, and they need to get into your home, how are people finding you, and how are they making that connection?
Well, a lot of word of mouth, but we are also on 211. You can call 211, and we're listed in there now. I don't know if we are. We're fixing to be, but any of the most of the churches are pretty familiar with us now. Care Help, of course, knows all about us.
Sure.
Getting social media. I mean, a lot of what Almost Home getting that word out is a lot of word of mouth. But I can tell people, everybody has my number. It's not a secret. Like pretty much everybody. You can go to Calcasieu Parish Correctional. I think it's written on the wall. So whatever. I mean, we get the word out there. But finding it, I know that. Like I said, 211, we're working with that right now, trying to make sure that when they call, they'll know this is kind of what we do, and then they'll send them to us, and then we can kind of.
So is there a dimension to your program where, because the name's Almost Home, and it just made me think of it when you just said it out loud, that you're in the home, you're going through the program, the discipleship. Is there a part where it's like, okay, now we're trying to move you into this stage where you're reconnecting with family and friends and loved ones?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody gets kind of they get a financial, a spiritual, a physical, a mental plan as they start going through the program. If they come in with a support system, we immediately connect with that family and let them know their progress and what they're doing. If it's a healthy support system. If it's not a healthy support system, that kind of will vary on how long it'll take for us to want to start reaching out to them, because we want our person to be really strong before we reconnect.
Yeah, okay.
But especially if it's children. We're partnered with social services, with DCFS. We've done quite a few cases with them, probation and parole, all that kind of stuff. But as far as reconnecting them back, once they're making healthy choices, a lot of times, sometimes they have to cut the family, and that's not something that they can't, and unfortunately we do have to help them do that sometimes and say, this is just not something that you can do right now. There may be a time, God's a God of restoration. It will happen in His timing, but right now, maybe that's what we have to do. But if they have a healthy support system, we immediately start trying to connect with them. Matter of fact, we're going to, we have a young man in our program right now that's trying to get his son, be reconnected with his son. So we'll take him over the holidays. He'll actually be at our home, me and my husband's home. And he'll come in and for about a week or so and watch him reconnect with his son. So we can hands-on with him and see how he's feeling, how his son's feeling, what's that restoration looking like, where are we headed with that. And we'll invite him into our classes, try and get him involved in church. We do have a home. Once they go through our program, for the ladies, we have a kind of a graduation house that they can move into, where they get a private room and they're a little bit more independent. And we just started that phase a few months ago for some ladies to come through the program a while back, and they're kind of like leading a home now. So there's all kind of programs set up for them to watch them grow, because that's the thing we tell them. We want you to grow and go. We don't want, I love you, I'd love to have you here forever, but that's not the goal.
Right.
We got new people coming in. I'm always thinking about the girl that's not here yet. That's the one that my heart is for, the one that's not here yet. Let's get all this stuff set up, and let's make sure everything's good for her. So when she gets here, because we don't know who she is, God does, but when she gets here, we want to know that everything's ready for her, that we haven't burnt any bridges, that we haven't allowed anyone to burn bridges. That's how we get the probation, parole, DCFS, different judges starting to trust our programs, because they know that we don't play games. I will let you know I'm holding you accountable. Even with the businesses that we partner with, we go into there and we say, hey, you get them, you get us. because we're saying we think they're ready for this, and we're coming with them. If you need us, we're going to hold them.
So
accountable.
y'all are talking about like helping people get employment and things like that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, they usually have a couple of months before they go to work, depending on kind of where they come from. We'll let them kind of decompress for a couple of months, and then we'll start trying to help them get on a job. They have a job track through SC3 they can do. Several businesses we're starting to partner with. Pastor Jay's got quite a few. Sean's got, everybody's got a few little connections here and there. But we kind of make sure, are they being timely? Are they being, they nice and strong-minded?
Yeah, sure.
Things like that.
I can see that. That's incredible. I didn't know y'all did that as well.
Yeah, yeah. It's getting there where we're going to have even more things after the first of the year that we're going to be able to get them into. We just partnered with a job search program where they can actually go on the job training for a while, and they can go to school and different things. And that all goes through SC3. They're open Monday through Thursday from 10 to 2. After the first of the year, they're closed right now for the holidays, but they can go through there and find out all kind of neat programs that we have going on.
Wow. So this is a curious question for me. What is something that's really common? Have you seen like common, what's the word I'm looking for? Common reasons, I guess, for people to end up in a home like yours? Is there something like over this last 5 years that you've just gone, oh, this is almost always this is a factor? Just
that radical financial downward spiral that they cannot get out of.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. And, of course, the addiction is part of it. That mindset, that backwards mindset, that maybe they have burned a lot of bridges by their choices. And so now they're in it and they want out. Now they can't. They can't get out of that financial. They don't have that family support. Maybe their family support was good, nice and healthy, but they burnt a lot. And so they're just like, you have fun with them. I'm not dealing with this. You know, you were asking a while ago, like, how do we connect them with their families? Well, the first thing I ask them is, what's your family dynamic? What is your family dynamic? Who are your brother? How many brothers and sisters are you close with them? Where's your mom? Where's your dad? How many aunts and uncles are in your family that are interested in you? And most of the time they'll say, well, they don't want nothing to do with me. No, I haven't talked to her in years, or no, I haven't. And so, of course, if they're in victim mentality, it's because they don't like me, they don't trust me. It's okay, because you were a turd for 30 years. They're tired of you. Thankfully, like I said, I had my mother-in-law and my aunts and uncles that when I decided to quit being a turd, they said, okay, let's do this. But not everybody has that. So that's a real common thing. But if they say, yeah, my mom loves me to death, man, she's just tired of me, she's burned out on me. Okay, well, let's work on you, and then let's go work on mom. And say, okay, mom, I've worked with her for 3 months now. She is really trying hard. I've put her through this trial. We've put this pressure on her. We've done this, and this. She's doing it. Can you give her a chance? Can you come to a class? But the financial is a huge hurdle for them. Because maybe believe how many people have warrants out for their arrest that they're just hiding over just something minor, because they don't even have the money to go to the courthouse to answer to it, because they know they're going back. They're going to get locked back up. It's a cycle. And then if they go get locked back up and they did have a little bit of something, by the time they get out, it's gone. So they're like, I know I need to do this, but if I do, I'm going to lose the couch that I did have to sleep on, my kids, or maybe a job, you know? And so we try and break down all of those financial barriers for them before they leave, to say, okay, you can come in, get sober, and get a job, and probably have a place in 3 or 4 months. But you're leaving with the same exact thing you came in here with. You have no driver's license because you owe too much in fees. Your probation fees are behind. If it's a man, your child support is upside down. Did you answer to your warrants? So it takes about a year, honestly, and for some even longer, but to really unravel some of those things. The first couple of months is just them, they're like coming on and going, oh, I'm doing something different now. And then the next few months is, let's get them structured. Let's get them, kind of thinking about going to work. And can you just show up for a few months on time? Can we just do that? Right. And now let's start rebuilding the financial. You know, and for some people, having a car is so far out there for them.
Right.
That's not even an option.
Right.
You know, like so that's the least of their concerns.
Right.
You know, and so we have to tell them, no, it's not. It's not out of your reach. It's really not. This can happen. We can do, if we set it up and get you to follow something and some structure, then it can happen. And not all of them do it. Now, you know, we've had some really good success stories this past couple of years that we're real excited about. But for every one that we had, we lost 10 that just weren't ready. Man, and that's something you have to understand. Some of them just are not quite there.
Yeah. And
it may take 4 or 5 times around that mountain before they do it. You know, the one I have running up there and helping with the sober house now, there was 4 or 5 times around that mountain just with me, not even with her family before me. Okay.
Yeah.
But now we're pushing a year sober, so we're good. You know, we feel pretty good about it.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of running around that before it happened, you know?
Yeah, man. I mean, you're listening to that whole thing about the financial. I think I have a lot of conversations like that also, and privately and publicly. And I think that's something that so many of us who do have, and things are fairly stable, we really forget that little spiral can destroy people's lives.
Absolutely.
And it's the working poor. I mean, because I know people that are working so hard, but they still cannot make just the bare minimum, the most meager of living. And, you know, one without a support system or a family member that's willing to help, you know, it would take 1-2 trips and they'd be done. I mean, any hiccup in that whole system and it all falls apart.
And not just done and take a while to get back.
Yeah, right.
You know,
because then you lose lose your shelter, you may lose your vehicle, and then one by one, you know, it unravels. And if you have children involved in that situation, I mean, it's just even more compounded.
Thing. Yeah,
I've met many people like that, and they just it's heartbreaking, honestly. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, it just withers my heart whenever I meet people that I go, wow, they're living with a family at the mercy of whoever will let them stay there for as long as they will. But then when they have to go, they've got to find someplace else. I mean, I've met people who are living in, you know, just concrete floors in people's garages with their kids or a shed and you just go, this is right here in this town.
It's right there. It's right next door. Yeah,
these are families living like this, and they just can't get out of that cycle. There's too many hurdles, you know. One
of the things we want to look for when we first get them is what their willpower is, where they at with things. Are they, and thankfully, you know, when I was out in the world, I thought I had a really good BS detector, but apparently it's called discernment. And so it's really quickly trying to figure out, is this somebody who, given those tools and given those opportunities, is going to use that or abuse that?
Right.
And unfortunately, we do have to do that pretty quickly, and then know sometimes to go, we've done this A, B, and C. You're not meeting that. When you're ready, let me know.
Yeah, right.
Okay,
right.
Because I have 5 people in line.
Because you got other people. That's exactly right.
And so we're pretty strong about that across all of these ministries. Is, you know, here's some things to do. And yes, I want to help you. Absolutely. Here's some things to do, and you have a week to let me know what's up. And you're going to check in. I'm going to check in with you this next weekend or whatever. Be at church on Sunday. Do this, do that. And it's not about works necessarily, but, you know, we need to see. We need to see where you're at, because we are putting in a lot.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people, and we're asking a lot when we're out here doing these kind of things, podcasts and radio and meetings and things like that. We're asking people, take a chance on who we're saying take a chance on, and they're having to trust our word for that. And so we want to make sure we're giving them a good quality of somebody that's going like, hey, I know this guy's got, you know, 10 years backed up prison and 20 years of addiction and whatever. But, you know, there's something different here. There's something here. Can you just give him that chance?
Yeah.
And we can't let people burn those bridges.
Yeah.
You know, because if that would happen, then when that next girl gets here that's not even here yet, she already doesn't have that opportunity. And that's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, we really have to protect that. And it's real important to protect that.
Yeah.
And so we take those kind of things pretty seriously. But the ones that want to do it, it can happen. It takes a lot of work. You know, we're not even where we want to be yet in our family. I mean, we still have struggles all the time that we deal with because of our past. But you know, when you get out of the way, put God in charge, Let him lead and order your steps. I told him, I said, be sober, be good, and go to church. God will fix all the rest of it. I do not know what's going to happen for you. What's our plan? What we're going to do? I don't know. I'm not your answer. There's a whole book it talks about. It's called the Bible. All I know is be good, be sober, and go to church, and God will fix the rest. I know that.
Well, it's, definitely people, you have to do something, right? I mean, you have to take in action. That's something I definitely believe in, is right action. And you can just sit on a log and wait, but you can grow old and gray doing that. I mean, and nothing change. You really have to take a right step, and say, okay, I'm going to put one foot in front of the other and do something different. Point myself in a new direction and walk towards that. And just keep on walking. And then day by day you get closer and closer to that. Right. And that's hard for us to do, is to make a critical shift, though. Yeah. And then patterns and habits, they're so hard. They make trenches. I felt like, you ever walk through one of those fun houses that have like those little hanging, almost like punching bag things, and they're knocking you all over the place when you're just trying to get through there. But that's almost what it feels like sometimes. It's like, God, I just need to get to the other side, but I just keep getting hit and knocked all over the place. And sometimes people just give up. Yeah. And they get too tired and they give up and they don't want to keep going.
Yeah. We found that there's a lot of people out there that want to know what's happening and what can I do to help. And there's different levels of that with people. Some people want to, and there's nothing wrong with this at all, but some people just want to give you a check and they don't really want to do the dirt.
Sure. I understand.
And I love those people. I'm fine with those people.
You can put it to work.
Yeah. Right? And then there's others that want to get in the trenches with us and do this, but some people don't, and you get good and bad feedback on that. Well, they just throw money at a problem, and I'm cool with that.
We need it to
we need that too. Okay. And that doesn't make them any less of help. It means that that's not who I am. I don't want to go in there and I've had a couple of my friends tell me, said, but I don't want to do what you do, man. I don't want to go to trap houses and pull people out of ditches and watch them while they puke. And I said, yeah, I love that, man. I'm in it. Let's do that. And they're like, yeah, no. I said, well, I don't want to do what you want to do. That's not interesting to me either. And I said, I tell you what I'm gonna do. I said, I'm gonna go clean them up. Me and Jesus gonna get them all stitched and bandaged and do everything. Ooh. We're gonna get them all stitched and bandaged, and then you go take them to tea, because I don't do tea. I don't do tea and cookies. I'd rather go back here to the trenches and do that part. It takes all of us to do all of that. So if there's something that you don't know what to do, just get in touch with somebody, because we have a hair salon here in town that about once every couple of months, that's what they do. They donate a haircut and to these ladies, some of whom have never had their hair professionally done. You know what I mean? And that's what they do. They don't know what to do, but you do that, and you don't have that. They look forward to that. We have people that they go get little $5 gift cards and just drop them off. So when they want to go get a McDonald's, I can give them a little $5. They can earn it. They have to earn it, and they'll give them a little $5 gift card. Instead of throwing cash at them. Maybe they're giving them something to eat. We have some churches that they just supply a lot of the essentials, and then we have, of course, the financial partners that are awesome, even if it's $25 a month or $50 a year or whatever it is, that start funding and showing us, do fundraisers for us. Our church is going to have, I think it's Pompelli's, is going to have a fundraiser where they're going to set up, and they're going to take care of everything and then donate everything they get to our church.
Oh, wow.
So any of that kind of stuff that we can find out about, and we'll do our part to make that happen as well. We go speak to different groups, and we have over at SC3, we have like our t-shirt shop and all those different kinds of things that are helping people all over this community, teaching them skills and teaching them. We have our Aspire Learning Center. They can get their GED. They can take phlebotomy. One of the ladies that came through the program years ago, before we even knew this was a program, I didn't even know them back then. She came through and did all this amazing stuff with Paula, and then now she's running a phlebotomy class for the women. Oh, wow. and people that are coming through these. So things were happening before any of this was even happening.
Yeah.
And so he goes before us.
Yeah, the groundwork's laid.
Yeah, for sure.
Path's already been walked.
Yeah. And there's incredible stories about that, and I'd love to be able to have people come tell their stories. A few of them have been on the radio a few times. they love to share about what God's done for them, and come check out our class. That's always a fun thing to do. They get up there and they give their testimonies, and once a month out at Freedom, they do their chip night. And they do that up there in DeQuincy as well, Mouse Bluff. I mean, it's just a great community to be a part of.
It's amazing.
Sure.
I love your story. I love that your lifestyle was just transformed and completely turned into a blessing for so many other people.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to shower praise on you. I understand that know where that comes from. I'm just saying that I love transformation. I love stories of transformation. I love stories, true stories, where people just go, I'm done. I'm doing something different now, and it's a complete 180. And then start walking a new direction and helping other people along the way.
And those are choices of how you're going to use tragedy in your life. Are you going to be a victim or a victor? That's what we talk about all the time. We lost a little sister last year to addiction. My family did, and God's already using it for amazing things. It's a tough thing to go through, but and we recently just laid to rest one of the ladies that came through our houses. So there's been some beautiful things happen. There's been some real trials, some real deep things that have happened. We see people that have lost their children and have not gotten them back. We've seen people that have gotten their children back and they're raising them now. But we've also had a couple that their kids were put up for adoption. It was a little too long before they got it together. So we see both sides of it all the time. But God uses it all for good. If we that's our choice, is to see how are you going to walk through this. And when we went through this with our losing our little sister last year, that was probably the first test of our family's faith as Christians.
Really?
We had some before. We'd lost people before when we were all out in the world. My mother passed a year before I got sober. She never got to see this version of me here on earth. But that's okay, because God's using that too. And but that was our way of seeing our family stand through that faith, and it's been hard. We've had several that are really struggling with it, but we've done it. And with God's help and our support system and the people that rally with us, we went in and we came out. And that's what I tell them. I said, we're, like you said when we first sat down, I like to be transparent. I like people to know that we do get it. I've had, my children have been in addiction. I've been in addiction. We've lost family members. We've had some very serious things happen in our family, but they see us go in and they see us come out. And that's what I think anyone that's trying to model after someone with the scripture tells us to do, model those that have gone before you. And I want to do that. Every pastor I've had, they're so transparent. They have no problem saying, that's who I was. I mean, I think you interviewed Sean a while back.
Yeah.
Come on.
A few weeks ago.
Right here from Sulphur, and you still sometimes you say his name. I didn't know them back then, but you say that name, they're like, wow, it's just incredible. And every once in a while we'll have someone come through our program, and I believe God gave us here in Sulphur, not Westlake, because that's where we did kind of all our dirt. And but they'll come through and they're like, come on, no way,
surprised.
But it has been a pretty radical transformation, and it's something that we're still sometimes getting used to that new skin.
That's a good way to say that.
Is interesting at times.
I talk about that sometimes. I think about it quite a bit too, because there's almost like all of us maybe have this to one degree or another, but it's like a thin-skinned membrane, almost like this version of yourself that's trying to break through, and it's pushing against that membrane constantly, trying to let you hear its voice and let you become that. But that skin sometimes is so thick, and that person can't come through. And I find in my life the skin gets thinner and thinner, and that's that other person slowly begins to you start to see the features of this new person.
Well, we were this way for 44 years. I'm 5 years this way. So naturally it's going to be a little difficult, but like you said, it does get easier, and it just becomes who you are. Because when we went through this last year, and then recently we have a son that's stays sick a lot, and we're in a hospital a lot. And then right during that, found out we lost one of the girls that had come through our houses, and but never for a second did I think about any of my old ways, because this is who I am now. And it was a good feeling, to think, now this is how I think. I didn't even have to go, oh man, I could really, no. It wasn't even a fleeting thought, because I tell the ones that we're teaching now, this is who we are now. There's not an option. If you take that option off the table of, when I have a bad day, am I going to do this or am I going to do this? Well, if it's not an option, you're just going to go the right way.
Right.
Because this is what I do now. I don't hesitate in that. It's not a barrier, because when I said I surrender, my chains were broken. And that's one of the things that we do in our classes. I don't talk about let's break the chains. The chains were broken when you surrendered. The chains were broken. So let's move on. Let's grow up in Christ and work our recovery towards our walk with Christ. Instead of staying in that mindset of I've got to keep getting better. Well, just keep growing up. And Bible study is a meeting, and going to church is your group. And I love my recovery time. I mean, I love going and doing those things, but I also want to shift more and more towards my body of Christ, and I want to switch more and more towards leaning on my Bible studies, and that's how I grow up. I'll never forget where I come from. I know very clearly where I was at and what God delivered us from, but I want to stay teachable, and I want to grow. And I want to keep going up there, because that's what, when I look back, I want that distance to get further and further from who the enemy thought I was, and who I claimed over myself for many years, because that's not who I am. This is what people say, well, you're not who you used to be. Thank goodness, because that wasn't who I was. This is who I am. Right. I got you. Since you're sitting there telling me I'm not who I used to be, no, you're right. I wasn't.
Well, so often, I mean, even as when a parent has a child who's going through this, and they grow up and they're caught in addiction and destructive behavior and destructive patterns, those parents who have long good memories will look upon that child and go, I know this isn't who you are, because I remember you as the loving child, the one that said, I love you, Daddy, or the one that did this sweet thing, and the one that was always joyous and smiling. And so parents have that version of the child. When we grow up, though, we sometimes we forget that version of ourselves, and we think who we are as an adult. And I tend to, and I don't know, maybe my memory works like this, and my mom thinks it's kind of funny sometimes, things I can remember. But I sometimes look. In fact, I'll tell you a little story. The other day, because I was journaling about this, I brought my boys out to the Longleaf Vista Trail, and we went to this place where I went camping. I've been camping there so many times when I was younger, in my 20s, 19, 20, 21, 22. I had so many camping trips there with my friends on those mesas out there. And the other 2 weeks ago, when I was out there with my boys, it was a beautiful day, and the wind was blowing, and there's still these sort of scorch marks on the rock where you can see where people had fires. Now, they don't let you camp out there anymore, but my boys were just out there looking over the cliff, and it was real quiet, and I was just standing there and sort of sunk into my own memory. And just for like this little moment, I could almost see those campfires, and I could see myself as a 20-year-old kid with my friends or whoever I was with, and the fire crackling. And I got this weird sense that I was actually there, just outside of the firelight, watching watching myself. And then I almost got the sense that I was 20 years old again, getting the sense
that's cool
that I was watching myself.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm him too.
That's good.
I'm him too. I mean, I'm me, obviously, but I'm also him too, like 20-year-old me.
Wow.
Which means I'm also 10-year-old me or 5-year-old me.
That.
So I'm still that kid that was riding on my dad's shoulders.
Yeah.
Eating honeysuckle drops. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like our parents see us that way.
Yes, exactly right.
And so, I tend to take that view with Christ too, that Christ sees me that way. That's
exactly
too.
Right.
Like this child that hasn't been stuck with all the stuff that this identity that I make as an adult,
Yeah, because he knew that. He knew that today we'd be sitting here doing this, even when I was in my 20s being what I was doing.
Right.
Like, he knew that.
Yeah, time doesn't work like that. We talk about this constantly, like this line of time, like, oh, well, I'm here today. Well, that's a very human way of looking at time. There's that, and then this, and then that's next, and there's what's coming. But when you think about a divine view, time really isn't like that. It's all one picture. So it's sort of already happened, yet somehow there's still it matters what we do, even though ultimately there is an end to it all.
Well, my friend Glenn up in DeQuincy, he said this, and I told him, I'm taking this. I'm going to give you credit every time I say it, but I'm taking it. Is that you know, God already knows, like over here, what we're going to do and how screwed up we're going to do something. And he still thinks we're awesome. Okay? Right. Like he knows when I'm like 62, I'm going to do something not okay. I'm going to say something rude to somebody, or I'm going to do something I'm not supposed to do. And he still thinks I'm awesome. But he already knows what I'm going to. And so I think about, like I was telling them this last night in class, you know, when I was 20, you would have, and 30, you would have never convinced me this is what I would be doing. That was just, he knew. And so he's going like, okay, I know what you're doing, but I know where you're going. Yeah. And I know what you're going to be at, and I know what you're going to be doing. And I'm okay with you. And I love you, and it's okay. I'm okay with you. I'm not like okay with what you're doing, because come on, let's get it together. But I had this plan for you, and it's over here. And how long is it going to take you to get there? Yeah. How long is it going to take you to get there?
Right.
You know,
we can't see the way.
No. And you know, and then when we do, we still kind of, like you're saying, we still kind of stay in that little moment, because you know he's got bigger and better and more. Even more than that, even more than what we're doing right now, he's got that for us. And so we take them into that. One of the things I like to try and do with them is say, tell me a time where you felt like that 5-year-old, that 10-year-old, that 20-year-old, whatever. And so it's there, right? You know it. You know who that is, you know. And if it's a parent and they've lost their kids, tell me when you knew you were doing that okay. Let's go there and let's build from there, because that's who you are. Yeah, because that's who you are. And these other things, you know, the enemy has got a hold of you, but there's things there. So when we were out in the world, you know, we were helping and we were doing, and we were all these things that we're doing now. You know, we loved housing people. And yes, my husband picks on me. He says, I collect people. You know, when my mentor says the same thing about herself, she says, I don't, you know, people collect the other things. I collect people, you know, and that's what I do. I like to collect people. I like to help people. I like to have people around me and do for them, you know, and make them understand how special they are and how cool they are. And that, you know, I don't have that way about me, but I love that about you. And so when you remind them of that and you show them that, and then they back that up with God's love and God's grace and God's mercy and all these other things, it's just a win-win. Yeah. Because they can find themselves and they can know who they are. And I love all the ways that that I was. I don't necessarily want to be completely different, because my boldness, I couldn't be in the ministry I'm in if I was that girl that didn't have any boldness or assertiveness to her. Yeah. Like, you know, we deal with some tough people. Sure. You know, you got thick skin. You know, I said, I have to tell my girls all the time, I said, okay, it's Hate Miss Beth on Facebook Day. Do not respond. You know, they're like, no, I said, no, I really, God's my protector. Right. Don't go in there. Do not respond. I said, I don't even mean positively or negatively. We are not responding. But the reality is, you know, you lead, you bleed, you know, and we get people on us all the time. And if I wasn't that way then, I just had to, like we were talking about, you have to just flip that and use it for what I can do good with it. Right. Because that, even going through what I went through as a child, watching, you know, losing my brother, all the different things that we went through, made me who I am, you know. And I want to know that, you know. I want people to know that, because it prepared me, you know. My little sisters were my original nightmares for learning how to take care of these women, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, if I hadn't gone through what I went through with them, you know, where would I be at for these ladies, you know? Shaping and molding, that's what's happening. Yeah, for sure. And all the things that I went through with my mom, you know, I cherish it now, because I'm like, thank you, Jesus, for showing me and helping me, because I can literally see her in every woman that I deal with. The young, the middle, the older, the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever. I can see it all with them. Every beautiful woman that comes through here, I can see her. And it's like I get to live out being with her all over again in a good, healthy way. Yeah. One of the ladies I'm helping right now, the lady that finally got off the streets, she's just precious to me. I didn't get to take care of my mother the way I would have liked to, you know, and I didn't do some things that I wish I would have done, you know. And I've forgiven myself. I've moved on, and I'm okay with it. But still, it's still good the way it's nice, you know. I go like, you know, I feel like he's giving me an opportunity, you know, to do some things. And same thing with my sister. And so, you know, it's just, I don't know, having that opportunity to really give back and for what he's done, I can't do it enough.
Yeah.
I cannot do it enough. Like, it's just my whole life's work now, you know, and my husband and my family too, and they stand right beside me. You know, I ask them whatever, and they're like, all right, Mom, let's go, you know. And my grandkids are serving and helping. I have two 10-year-old granddaughters. Well, one's 10, one's fixing to be 10. And they're ministering at school. And they're talking to kids, and they speak recovery. It's kind of funny. They go and they talk, you know, what's your struggle today? You know.
Yeah.
And but they're learning, and it's just good stuff.
Well, it's making compassionate people.
And it's just a trickling out effect.
Yeah,
you know?
I love that.
Yeah, and breaking those curses, and that's not who we are. And my grandkids won't live that life.
Yeah, we don't have to live in those curses.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah, we don't. That's true. I mean, that's a conversation that's on my lips quite a bit with people I love, that we don't have to live out this story that we think is the story of our family.
Right.
You know, we can change that right now.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah, we absolutely can.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing. We get to do that every day around the front lines.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. But I very much appreciate the ones that are behind us, supporting us and helping us, because without that, we can't do this.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've had amazing people in my life teach me and shape me and mold me and discipline me. You know, discipline is very important to discipleship. You know, and if you don't have that, you won't be. It's much harder. You know?
Well, especially too for somebody that's coming out of kind of chaos and addiction. I mean, you can slip right back into old patterns if you don't have any kind of discipline. You know,
submission is essential. It really is, and you know that's. I tell you, submitting to us through Him. You know, it's not about submitting to us at all, but submitting to God. Because if you're not, then you're just really you're going to stay stagnant. You know, and so I kind of enjoy it now. I still struggle with it at times, you know, and if you talk to my husband, I'm sure he'd let you know that, because I'm kind of a hard person to lead. He's a very passive person. I'm not, you know, so, but I'm trying to learn to submit to him, my pastors, you know, and grow in that, you know, and that can be hard, you know, we're coming out of where I come from, you know, and being in charge, you know, whatever, but, it's like you were saying earlier, it gets easier and easier. That skin gets thinner and thinner, and it's like now I'm like I want to submit. Like, please take the lead, please do something, you know, because I can sit back and enjoy. I'm tired.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, right. Point. Well, I heard a priest one time say something really beautiful. I was complimenting on something he had said, the form he was using for something, and he held a pencil up. He said, honestly, he said, I just want to be a pencil. You know, he said, and that's how I try to imagine just a good sharp pencil and be an instrument in God's hand. That's it. That's all. I try to get out of the way and just be a pencil.
I like that.
And I was like, I like that too. It was a very simple way of saying that I just want to be this simple thing, and just if you want me to be sharp, I'll be sharp. You know, and just use me, and I try to get out of the way.
Yeah,
and I was like, that's a beautiful.
That's really cool. One of the things we're working on right now, and we're in the part of the semester, we're graduating in a couple of weeks, is learning to be where we're at, like right here. So while I'm here with you, I want to be right here.
Yes,
I don't already want to be
thinking about
in my next meeting I have later today.
Right.
I want to be here. You know, and so that's a real struggle for people that have been in survival mode for a long time.
Sure.
Because they're always staying 4 or 5 steps ahead to make sure everything's going to be okay.
Right.
And so that's one of the things we're working on right now. And so I'm teaching them to do it. And I'm going like, okay, slow down, you know.
Yeah.
And I do listen to slow down. I've been told to slow down a lot since I've been in ministry. And Sean will appreciate that. He's slow down. What? I don't know what that gear is, you know. But I'm learning to do that. But that's what we're teaching them, you know, is there real tangible things to do to teach yourself to slow down.
Sure.
But you have to put them in place. You know, I was picking on one of my ladies the other day because we weren't even in the parking lot, and she's already basically unbuckled halfway out the door, you know.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of touched her leg and I said, can you just be here until we're there?
Yeah.
And she goes, what do you mean? I said, you're already inside the building and I'm not even in the parking lot.
Right.
You know, I said, be here until you're there, because you're going to miss whatever he has for you right here. You know, there was a moment that was fixing to happen that he created for you, that he had for you, and you just missed it because you're already over there.
Yeah.
And so I'm real bad about that. Yeah. And so as we teach, we learn. You know, and that's what I'm talking about. So we learn from them all the time. And they have plenty to offer, the ones that are broken and the ones that are even starting their walk. You know, they have a lot to offer. And he puts everybody in a place for a time such as this. I
find presence is something that's very important to me, and as I get older, it's even more important. But I think the world really definitely running on a clock like it does it just gears everybody up to think about what's next, what's coming down what's tomorrow, what's on the calendar, and that's unfortunately breeds bad behavior, in my opinion. I mean, granted, we do have things we have to do at certain times, but at the same time, we can get trapped in that and then never get out of that.
That's right.
One of my favorite things to do to break myself of that is getting up before the sun comes up, completely dark, and going and finding somewhere out in the country and waiting for the sun to fully rise.
That's awesome.
I'm fascinated at my own anticipation and almost anxiety and what that does to break it, because even just waiting on the sun to rise, if you're watching your inner workings, there is a type of almost a residue anxiety from being trapped in the clock all week. That lingers even there. So the other morning it was really beautiful. It was foggy and the moon was still out. It had these beautiful 2 halos around it, and I was out on this little piece of water out in Shoe Peak Bayou, and I was like, it's night. Now granted, I mean, it's 4 a.m, but it's night. There's no sun. It's just dark out here. And so I had that residue anxiety of like, what time does the sun come up? I'm looking at my watch. I'm going, sunrise isn't till this time. Well, maybe I can come back trying to catch that perfect moment. And I really caught myself and was like, you're not being present.
Right. Oh, that's...
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're out here to be present for the sunrise, but...
You're not even...
You're too early for it. And so now you have this, planning. What... I was like, wow, this is the whole point.
Yeah.
Is to break this and be present. Just be present. So I just... A little bit of breathing, and I got present, and I just enjoyed the moonlight and the dark. And then my eyes adjusted, and then all these other things I got to see. And then slowly the sun begins to rise, and awesome. Overtake the sky. And I laughed at myself, honestly. I was like, wow, it's amazing how it's so hard to just be present.
Yeah.
And just be here.
Yeah.
It's like, what's next? What's next? What's next? What time's the sun coming up? Okay, well, if I come back, maybe I can go get some coffee. And it's like, just silliness.
Yeah, it is.
So why can't I just be here?
Yeah. Like you said, we have to be diligent. I mean, he wants us to be and organized and all those kind of things. Absolutely. But just enjoy where you're at.
Yeah, just
enjoy
breathe
that time,
in for a minute.
And because when you purposely slow down and really take that in, I don't know, there's just a peace that comes over that.
Yeah.
There's a real peace that comes over that. And then you can just you can cast your care. And you can say, I don't know where, I know what I have to do later today, but I don't have to be there just yet. I can just enjoy where I'm at. So
I wrote this down. It's relevant. I wrote it down the other morning in my journal after I had kind of had that experience, and I wrote down, I need to be fully present so I don't miss the presence.
Oh, wow.
Because when I'm not present, I do miss his presence. I mean, and when I am present, I that's when the heart starts to unlock, and I'm like, he can't come in if I'm not present, because I've got all these there's locks and girders and bars and doors all around, and it's like a little bomb, and if I can undo all of that, then I can be present and be present for that presence, because that's really what I want. I want to be there for that relationship,
And I'm happy, I know it.
This episode's Fishing for Goodies Fishbowl sponsor is Brimstone Museum and Henning Cultural Center in Sulphur, Louisiana. I don't know what you look for when you travel, but one of the things I look for when I'm putting together my itinerary is a unique museum or gallery in the city I'm traveling to. I do this almost every time I go to a new city, but if I'm being honest, I'm guilty of not always doing that very thing right here at home in Sulphur, Louisiana. That's really a shame, because we have one of the most interesting, historically relevant, and culturally rich corners in any city in the country about 2 minutes from where I'm sitting right now. I'm talking about the Brimstone Museum and Henning Cultural Center. Have you ever really thought about why our city is named Sulphur? They've got a permanent exhibit on the history of the sulfur industry that answers that simple question and more. You really get a full scope of just how important the sulfur mining industry was to the development of Southwest Louisiana and the impact it had on the rest of the world. Yes, the rest of the world.
On the same property, right next door to the museum, is the Henning Cultural Center, presenting some of the most interesting, modern, and culturally relevant local art shows I've ever seen. My dear friend Tom Trahan and the Brimstone Historical Society have really worked hard to give us this treasure, and it's a multifaceted jewel that I plan to take advantage of more often. You don't have to wonder what their hours are, or how to get there, or what shows are coming up. Just go to brimstonemuseum.org like I did, and subscribe to their mailing list right there on the homepage. That's brimstonemuseum.org. Tom will make sure you start getting the announcements for each and every new show at the gallery. But you don't have to wait for the mail to arrive to enjoy this historical local treasure. You don't have to be guilty, like me, of overlooking a local wonder that conveniently sits next to the Grove, one of the most beautiful walking parks in Southwest Louisiana. Drop in and say hi to Tom for me. Tour the museum and center, and make sure to tell Tom that you heard about Brimstone Museum on Find the Good News. Now, let's take that dive in the fishbowl. Yeah, this has been wonderful. I've enjoyed talking to you. I love listening to everything that you shared.
Thanks.
There is a part of this show called The Fishbowl, Fishing for Goodies. I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to the show yet, but so this fishbowl is full of questions and cards with different things on them, and each guest pulls 3 and then reads them, and we talk about them.
Alrighty.
Some of these have been submitted by other guests, some of them have been submitted by listeners, so we never know what's coming out of there.
What am I getting into, Oran?
I know, this is the part that either fun or anxiety inducing. I've actually enjoyed each one of these though.
Alrighty.
And draw one at a time, throw all 3, whatever you want to do.
Here. Need some kind of fortune cookie stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you frown upon when it comes to raising kids?
I'd be curious to know what you have to say about that.
Lack of structure.
Lack of structure.
I am a structure person when it comes to children. Children love structure. Children need structure. And when I see myself or someone else that's not giving that child that structure, that's a real sore spot for me. And because I know how it can feel to not have that, and feel like you need to have a foundation.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't have a foundation, then so I guess maybe not building a foundation for them.
Yeah, I can see where you can have it's probably a nice delicate balance with that too, right? Like some good structure, but still room for them to develop themselves.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and without that foundation, they're probably really not going to understand who they are, because they're going to be searching for too many different things.
Sure.
You know, and I think that we've been given an opportunity to do that with our grandchildren now. Is help them do with the building structure and foundation, and I don't know. That's a
good answer, actually. I mean, in a way, that's kind of how I feel about even religion. To be honest with you,
for sure.
I love. I like ritual and repetitive type practices that draw me in to their beauty, which allows me again to kind of be present within them. Like, for instance, one of the things that I've picked it up and laid it down over the years is praying the holy hours, different times a day, reading certain psalms at different intervals, reading the same thing that other people are all reading around the world. I find that when I stick to that, my life calms down, my mind calms down. I know it's coming. It's a structure. When I don't have that, when I'm not doing that, I long for it, or I feel like it's something broken, like a clock that's skipping or not doing the time right. And so I mean, I guess for me, that's kind of how I feel about religion. I need structures, but at the same time, I need to have room for my own walk, right? Like you said, so I can become the thing that I need, the better pencil.
That's one of the things I love about our Pastor Jay, is he allows us. He gives us a very good structure. He gives us a very good foundation, what we need. But he allows us to move and breathe and be what we need to be, and supports us in that. And I think as a pastor, it's essential, and as a parent, that's essential. That give them a foundation and structure and everything like that, but allow them to move around a little bit and explore who they are and what they're doing. But knowing that they have to come, and that's why I use our package that's how I introduce it when I go over it with a lady. That's okay. This is our structure,
Yeah.
This is what we do. This is it.
Those are the bones.
Right. This is it. And everybody needs one. So within this, there's a lot of room for grace and movement and growth. But if you start twisting that and turning that into a place that we're not okay with, we're going to come right back to it and go, remember that structure we showed you?
Yeah, right.
This is what we're going to do. So let's get back in line. But feel free to move around in it and do, because we're going to. And twice, I'm not going to hold you to the black and white any more than I expect you to hold me to the black and white, because it's not. There's a lot of movement and recovery in your walk, but we need to come back to this sometimes and go we did say this.
Like an anchor point, a tether. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to be a rudderless ship just floating out there, and you can end up all alone with no resources or help.
Exactly.
You are,
yeah. Okay, so what we got
Good
next?
one. That was good.
That was a good one. Okay, that was a big one.
This is a would you rather card.
Oh, Lord.
And this one might be. These tend to be kind of wild, so there's no telling what's on there.
Oh, wow. Would you rather play every instrument or speak every language in the world?
So one or the other. That's good.
Yeah, I would definitely rather speak every language in the world, so I can make sure that they understood me when I was talking about my favorite person, which is my Savior.
You could speak, I
can make sure they know. I lost the. There it is. I would like to speak every language, because then I would know for sure that they're understanding me.
I love playing music, but I think I would choose the same thing, because just language barriers so often are so unfortunate. Like when I hear a group of people speaking another language, sometimes I'm just like, man, I wish I knew what they were saying.
Yeah.
Not just out of curiosity, but I think it would just create more common ground between humanity if we all understood each other.
Yeah.
Even just the nuances of just a single word that means something totally different in two different. Even in the Bible, for instance, I mean, when you start digging into word translations and where the root word comes from, you go, oh wow, this one word cracks open a whole new meaning.
Absolutely.
If you dig into it. So I think that would be. I'm
always trying to find avenues when I'm in a store or wherever. Where am I fixing to put them in at? Where can I slip pieces in at?
Right.
So if that barrier is there, then you can't.
Yeah, that's right. It would remove a barrier. You're right.
That would be cool.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good choice.
I like that one. All right, let's see. What's this?
What?
I don't know if I'm being set up here. What do people say you can't do?
Oh. Hey, I didn't set those up, so that's the fishbowl provides.
Well, currently, they don't think that I can not move people into my home.
I like it. So they currently think you cannot move people into
right.
your home.
Yeah,
Okay.
they don't think I can do it. I think my children are actually wagering, hopefully in a healthy way, against when I'm going to move someone into my home, because that's just what we do. And I just recently, some of my kids, they move in, they move out, they move in, they move out, and so they just moved out. And so this is the first time in 15 years my husband and I just...
Nobody there.
Well, we have a granddaughter that's with us a lot, and our grandchildren, but as far as adults...
Right.
No. And so they're like, Mom's got an empty bedroom. What's she going to do? And because the other... We prayed for a big house because my husband said, let's buy a 2-bedroom. I'm like, no. I mean, come on. I collect people. I'm going to put them all over the floor. We've had like bedrooms in our kitchen kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a real thing. So they don't currently think that I can do that. I have an empty bedroom, and they think I'm going to put... And we also have an apartment upstairs outside of our home that's a ministry apartment, which someone is going into, but technically that's not in my home.
Right. It's outside.
So I think I'm going to win. But they don't...
So you think you're going to be able to do it, huh?
We've committed to a year of just us in the home. The ministry apartment will be someone in it, I'm sure, but inside the home, that's what we're trying to do. So,
a year.
Yeah. They don't think I can do it. It just started.
That's interesting. And it's interesting to hear you say, because I'm gonna tell you, like I've struggled with that too, because sometimes you do feel that need, like, man, I want to help this person get on their feet, and you want to bring them into your home, but then there's all those fears that come from that people, I mean, they're natural, I'm sure.
I don't have them.
Yeah. That's why I find it fascinating, because you probably would be like, hey, I have a space for you. If I
have a bed, somebody's going in it.
Yeah.
So we purposely, even at the house, at the woman's house, we decided to go down to 5 beds, and I had 6 in there. And so I told my husband, go over there and take the 6th bed out, because if it's in there, I'm putting someone in it.
I have a question, actually. This is a good card, because I was wondering so let's say you do meet someone and you see the need and you just know, hey, they need help immediately. How quickly, what kind of due diligence do you do to make sure you're safe and all that kind of stuff? Because that's questions that I think a lot of people probably have when they go, hey, I want to help somebody, but...
Yeah, we have a team that we use, and I'm held real accountable to that. I didn't do real good at that in the beginning. I was just really snatch them up, throw them in there, let's see what comes out in the wash. And if you talk to any of the girls that came through the first year and a half, they would say, oh, it was... wow. So we have a pretty good team that I'm held pretty accountable to because I do struggle with that, and that we have a criteria. Right now it's quite different than it was when we started. Right now it's more of an independent program where they really need to be kind of on their feet, several months sober. And we do an interview process. We sit down and talk to them. We run it all by each other a little bit. If we all can get together to talk about it, we do. But if we can't, then we just start shooting messages and kind of updating. Kind of giving them a idea of who we're dealing with. Yeah. And usually there are cases. I had one last week where I just got a phone call and I have to go do this. Yeah. I have to go get this girl. So I just have to trust my discernment at that point. And of course, I talk to my husband immediately before I make any decision, and he says yes or no. Yeah. And he's got he can tell me no. People don't think he can, but he can, and I listen. And so we put some safety precautions in place depending on their background. Yeah. We ask some pretty pointed questions that will let us know. And right now they need to kind of come recommended. Mm-hmm. And like I said, we're a pretty tight-knit group in this community, so we'll call each other and say, hey, what do you know about them? We shoot a name. I shoot a name to Sean or April or somebody, Paula, and just say, okay, what do you know about this person? I see that we're friends on Facebook. I check them on Facebook pretty quick. And what do you know about them? What's up? Are they a nightmare? What's going on? And Care Help, same thing, whoever we're dealing with. So we put a few things in place, but we want to be led. And sometimes you just have to take that step of faith. We have a pretty low tolerance for drama. So, and I tell them, I said, I can deal with the needle in your arm, or that I'll deal with the attitude in your heart.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I can deal with that part, but you start acting up, we don't really deal with that very well. But that's not something we're going to do. There's grace for that. But that will really get them put out of the residential part. Now, they're not ever out of our program. They can come to anything we have going on. But like I told myself, I don't let crazy live in my house. I'm not going to let crazy live in my women's house.
Right.
So we're going to be good.
Well, it needs to be healing and healthy for everybody. And if you have people healing at different rates, right? You can't have somebody really coming in and shaking up somebody else's recovery, right? I mean,
and we've had that happen. And quite honestly, we've had that happen based on not screening them enough and really just going on my feelings, or someone else's feelings, and going like, okay, let's try this, and then it shakes up the house. We try and keep the houses very stable as much as we can now, and we've learned a lot over the last couple of years doing that. But there's a few things we put in place, mostly just communication within our team and talking, and we taking the time to talk to them and asking God reveal. That's the first thing we should pray. Reveal, as I'm talking to her, reveal anything I need to know. And almost always something will. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to pop up, but He always reveals. And I said, I'm God's girl. He tells me everything. I have a T-shirt and everything that says so. It says God's girl, and He tells me everything. So you might as well tell me now, because if you tell me, even if I don't like it, I can trust you.
Right.
If I can't trust you, I can't work with you.
Yeah.
And even if I'm going to like what I'm going to hear, tell me. So I can, okay, well, yeah, she messed up, but I can trust her. Yeah. And now I can work with you, and we can just let us decide which direction do we want to go. So there's a lot of grace in it. Like I said, you can't say, well, God led me to lead a broken ministry and then get frustrated when people act broken.
Right,
They're going to be broken.
That's right.
They're going to act up. It's going to happen,
I get that. I get what you're saying, and without getting into it, I totally understand exactly what you mean. It maybe not exactly the same way, but you can't expect it to be what it is. to not be what it is.
Right.
If you ask for that,
Yeah.
and you're made for that.
Yeah, and I think just
what you're
being
gonna get.
real upfront with what we expect helps a lot. And that again comes with us being out there for a long time and understanding. I didn't always wear skirts, so don't try and push something over on us.
Yeah.
We do have a past. So, and I do understand manipulation. I do understand the things like the people do survival mode stuff. We understand it, and so we're not going to tolerate it. We don't live like that no more.
Yeah.
And so leave that there if you want to be here.
Yeah.
So.
Those were good questions.
Yeah, they were.
I like it when the questions, sometimes they're not relevant, but I like it whenever they can be.
Yeah.
And those 3 were.
Yeah, that was good.
So we're at the end, and this is a great opportunity for you to tell people if there's any last thing that you want for people to know, and just also how to get in touch with you.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I don't have a problem giving out my information. It's Beth Bunch. On Facebook, it's Beth Fields Bunch. And it's Almost Home Ministries on Facebook. And phone number is 337-853-0004. Our community center is located at 501 East Burton in Sulphur. You can contact us through SC3 Sulphur Christian Community Coalition on Facebook. And stop by and see us. Open Monday through Thursday, 10 to 2 after the first of the year. Amazing programs. Come by the Open Door Biker Church and check us out. We're there every day serving lunch. We have Freedom Friday meeting at the Rock every Friday night at 6:30, and just amazing things going on. And if you're interested in our sponsorship program, each one of us has one. So just reach out and we'll be happy to tell you about that.
Yeah, well, I thank you for your service, and thanks for taking the time to come talk to me.
Yeah, it's been amazing. I appreciate it.
And I love you just as well.
Thanks for listening to my conversation with Beth Fields Bunch. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. You can help me continue producing Find the Good News by becoming an early riser patron at patreon.com/findthegoodnews. Share an episode with someone you care about, or leave a kind review. I thank you for your support and for pressing play.